I have good intentions the week before, and it'll be, yeah, I'm going to get it all done, be nice and early, um, check everything through, and it's always in the last 5 minutes before everything gets set.
Mm-hmm.
I do think you can think about things too much. You
Oh, that's
can
true.
think,
That's
you
very
can
true.
think about what you're going to go through, and how it's going to look, and you can overcomplicate yourself. Yeah, confuse yourself with it.
Right? My had a talk with one of my children, one of my kids about that. They were just talking about how they wanted to get something done, but they were overthinking it, you know?
Yeah. Um, I think that's just experience, though, isn't it? As we get older, we learn to relax more and take things in our stride. When we're younger, we more, I suppose, we more care about what other people are thinking.
Right.
that's
Well, it
that's
doesn't quite matter too much.
no. It's just you get on with your own
Yeah.
sort of thing. As,
Right.
as long as people understand it, that's the main thing.
Right. Okay. I'll be right back, guys.
Excuse me. I love that music that your clock plays, Wendy.
So what's the weather like there, Andros?
Cloudy and cold.
Same here.
Yeah, it's in half Sweden is snow.
Yeah, it won't be long before it's here. Won't be long.
And a little longer before it's here.
Yeah.
Winter is coming.
It's already getting, it's going to be down in the 30s here in a couple of days. So,
Yeah, we were down to about 5 degrees outside tonight. So
I think we are 3 in Sweden.
yeah. And I was talking to somebody the other day in California, and they're saying it was 90 degrees overnight.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you get, we get into these situations where it's literally hot one day and then cold the next day,
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy. Steve, how are you, man?
I'm fine, thank you. The
Good.
rest of you, okay?
Yeah, I'm the man behind the star field. Okay, so right.
All right, Captain.
Yeah, thank you.
Steve,
Thank
you
you
all right?
for joining us. This is your first Global Star Party. It's Suhel's first Global Star Party as well. So Suhel's from Kosovo. Steve, where are you?
I'm in Nottinghamshire, in
Okay.
in the UK. I have been on before, by the way.
Oh, have you really? Okay, I'm so sorry.
I'm the one with the mobile planetarium, if you remember.
Ah, yes, yes. It has been a whirlwind of doing all of these.
You must meet so many different people. You can't expect to meet for everybody.
Well, Stefan here in the chat says, you guys haven't seen weather until you come down to Melbourne. 4 seasons in one day. We already have a global audience here. Nicholas Rochia, hello guys, how are you? Kelly Letourneau, evening folks. Dale Beasley, happy Friday. Martin Eastburn, we are, or is it that past sense of being? I don't know, Martin, that sounds very philosophical somehow. I was watching The Astonishing Simplicity of Everything. Interesting indeed. Yes. Steve Hauser, hello from Idaho, USA. Stefan, morning guys, haven't seen, oh, okay, yep. Let's see, Dale Beasley, California, where I am, it's 64 right now. Stefan here, 44C on Monday, 11C on Tuesday. Oh,
Yeah.
man. That sounds like
more
Arkansas.
UK.
That sounds like Arkansas. Hi, Tim. Tim Myers is saying hello.
Is my microphone working?
Yeah, it's working well.
Yes,
So
it is.
You can hear me loud and clear, right?
Yes,
I
I
can hear you
can.
loud and clear.
Hello, everybody. Hello
Hi.
from Kosovo.
Hello there.
Hey guys,
So
Hi, Shalanda.
how are we?
Yeah, we're all good, thanks.
Hi, hello.
Your internet's working.
Yes,
your-
internet's working. I just need to
Yes.
put background filter on because my wife is moaning. She said, "Oh, you need to put a filter on." So let me find an image.
Yeah. Tim Myers, Explore Scientific. When will your observatory start being sold? Tim, I think well, you could be talking about the observatory tent. We're already selling it. And we have already started selling the fiberglass domes, the pulsar domes as well. Steve Collingwood, I think, is going to be on the show tonight, so maybe he can give some sort of an update. But yes, we have domes on their way. Jessica Roberts, my daughter's watching right now. That's great. Yeah. Art in Eastburn. We went from 85 today to 68 in the passing of a front. Yes. Dave Ing, hello, happy Friday.
I think since we've all had these lockdowns, one day rolls into another. The weekend doesn't have the same meaning as it used to.
No, it certainly doesn't.
One long permanent weekend.
Yeah.
Right? Unfortunately.
Well, from 6 p.m. tonight, we're in a full lockdown.
Oh, of course you are. Well, Wales, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah. We've kicked the English out.
Oh.
You're not welcome anymore.
As we certainly should be.
We'll be back.
I think they're discussing us to go into tier 3 from Monday. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think really it should just be a case of they just bring in another fortnight lockdown while the kids were on holiday, and you know, that's it. Everybody can start getting back to normal for Christmas then, or a reasonable amount of normal. But to keep bringing in all these tears and confusion, I don't think it's only us. I think there's quite a few other countries that got the same problem, but it's just the way that it's transpired and being brought in. Different rules everywhere just makes it confusing for everybody.
Ryan Hanaho's joining us, and Francis
Oh,
Walsh.
there he is.
Both
I
of
just
All right.
Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
Hi, how are you?
We're all good,
Good to
thank
see
you.
you, Ryan.
Yourself?
Hi, Ryan. Carol Orange.
You guys. Hey, Carol.
Good to see you again. Long
I know
time
a few
no
of
see.
everybody here.
Hey, David.
Hey, Ryan, and hi, Carol. Good to see you.
Good to see you, David. How you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty
Wonderful.
well, thanks.
We first started logging in here, I thought, oh wow, hardly anybody's showing up. But we got, and Steve, I remember you now. I do remember. Yes.
that's okay.
The memories now, the neurons are firing again. It's so awesome.
Fueled with coffee then, have you?
Yeah, that's right. Mhm.
Scott,
Yes. Yes, sir.
how do I turn my phone so it's landscape? I'm not right, am I?
No, you're kind of sideways.
Yeah,
But that'll make everybody notice you more.
I guess so, but that's really bad.
No,
Does
you should
anybody
be able to
know?
just turn your phone. Just turn it. Let's see what happens.
Oh,
There you
There
go.
you go.
There you go.
Francis is fixed again.
Yeah, he is.
Thank
He's
you.
right side up.
again. Thank you all very much. Good evening from Texas.
Thank you.
Good.
Well,
Pardon?
I wanted to show this it's more than a visualization, it's real imagery of Osiris Rex tagging the asteroid Bennu and collecting samples. So this is, we've had a sample return mission before with like cometary dust, right? But this is the
Dawn.
first,
The Stardust spacecraft.
yeah, but this is the first asteroid return mission. So, and good Lord, if they didn't get some samples from that, I don't know what they would have gotten samples from. That looks like a successful hit to me.
I have another question, Scott.
Sure.
Can I now get into the Zoom on my computer to share my page? Because I'm on my phone.
You can. You have to use a different account. You know, that's all. Well, hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts with Explore Scientific, and this is the 17th Global Star Party. Let me stop sharing my screen here and show everyone that's on with us so far today. We've got, it looks like Hollywood Squares, right? We've got David Levy up here. We've got Gary Palmer, Andreas Nielsen, Suhel Ahmedi, Steve Ibbotson, Carol Orge, Shailendra Sharma, Ryan Hanaho, and Francis Walsh, all with us today. So we've got astronomers from Europe and the United States at this time. There may be others logging in a little bit later, but it's a good way to spend a Friday, and we always love this. So, and I've been kind of reading through the chats as we started our program, and we already have some people from around the world watching our program at this time. So the visualization, that animation scene that you saw before was from the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft. I don't know if you guys watched it live, but it was absolutely fascinating to see this tag operation happen, where they were able to, we hope, collect actual material from asteroid Bennu. So Jeffrey Horn reminded me Japan's Hayabusa 2, that's right, is bringing back a meteor sample this December. It's landing in Australia, I believe. So there you go. So it's kind of, these things to me are almost like manned missions to these celestial bodies, because we're scooping up stuff and we're bringing it back. But I'd like to introduce David Levy. David has committed to doing all of our global star parties. He has done, I think, since the announcement of the pandemic, and a lot of us doing online type of things. He's done over 100 such presentations for astronomy clubs and different organizations, probably mostly related to astronomy. I met David long before his famous discovery of Comet Shoemaker-Levy 9. He was at the Riverside Telescope Makers Conference. I met him in the early 80s, and somebody pointed out, they said, "That's David Levy over there. He's discovered comets." And I just go, wow, I was so excited and very nervous to meet him, actually. And but David has become a great friend, and he is someone that has the sustainability of very few people that I know of in astronomy. He goes out for the love of it every clear night that he can to do this search for comets. And as he always says, that it's not just finding or discovering the comet, but the search for comets that he loves. But we all love him. His talks are always warm, interesting, and often poetic. And so I will turn the stage over to David Levy.
Well, thank you very, very much, Scotty. Global Star Party 17. Welcome, all of you. Welcome, friends from around the world. We're going to have a lot of fun together this evening. Excuse me. OSIRIS-REx. I think a lot of you, as you were logging in tonight, saw the beautiful film of the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft gently just tapping the surface of the asteroid Bennu, vacuuming up some stuff and climbing back up. It took a matter of seconds. And in 3 years, it'll be back on the Earth. Wendy and I were watching Trevor Noah last night, and he had a very interesting take on it. He couldn't get over how exciting it was that we can actually send us a robotic spacecraft to an asteroid hurtling through the solar system, touch it, grab a sample, and then come back. But in his next scene, he's holding a bag of dirt. He says, in 3 years from now, when it lands, someone's going to grab the bag of dirt and say, "Anyone want this? Oh, I'll just throw it out." I don't think so. I think this is going to be very much anticipated and well received. And there may be someone in the audience tonight who will end up being part of the team to study that. The other thing that happened regarding OSIRIS-REx was that Wendy asked me, we were discussing the funding of a mission like that. And Wendy sort of put me through the story as to whether, if I were a member of Congress, could I justify the expense of sending a robotic spacecraft into space and landing it on an asteroid, picking up material, and bringing it back home. I don't think I did so well that night to justify it, but I'll try a little better now. The whole idea is, you can go outside in your backyard and you can pick up material just as OSIRIS-REx did from the asteroid. But that material has changed. That material on Earth has evolved and has changed over so long, over, say, 4.5 billion years of the development of the Earth as a planet. The idea is that asteroid Bennu is absolutely pristine. There's been virtually no change since the asteroid was formed, with the possible exception of a few collisions from smaller asteroids or bigger ones. And if we could get a sampling of material from it, it would show us what that asteroid is made of and what the materials of it comprise. The idea is we might get an idea by studying Bennu, we may get an idea of what the solar system looked like 4 billion years ago. Wendy listens to me and says, "Is that worth doing?" Of course, I'm a member of the choir, and I said, "Of course it's worth doing." But can I come up with a reason for it? That's a little bit more difficult. A reason that Joe Sixpack and his family might be able to accept. We search the sky and we search the stars, whether it's me looking for comets or whether it's OSIRIS-REx picking up material from Bennu, because we want to know what's there. We want to know what our solar system is like today, and we want to know what it was like 4 billion years ago. It is extraordinarily simple and elegant, yet very complicated to do that. If we can find out what the solar system was like so long ago, it might just tell us a little bit more about our Earth, about our planet, and about our home, and what its history was like. We all have aunts and uncles and grandparents, and occasionally some of us are fortunate enough to read a book or something by them that tells us what their life was like way back then. I don't know if you're interested in that or not, but to me, that is fascinating. I really would love to know what Canada was like when my great-grandfather was here, what New Orleans was like when my mother's parents arrived from Russia, when my mother's mom arrived from Russia, and then later married my grandfather. My mom passed away a couple of years ago, and she is now resting at the Shar Shemaim Cemetery in Montreal, about 100 meters away from the grave of Leonard Cohen. And I love to think that up there in heaven, she and my dad and other members of my family and Leonard Cohen are sitting around on a couch talking about things. And wouldn't it be nice if one of the questions that comes up is, could we learn something about us by picking up material from the asteroid Bennu? My quote today will be 2 short poems. One of them is from Thomas Gray's Elegy, and the other is a rewriting that I did of Leonard Cohen's song Hallelujah. I think that the elegy that I'm about to quote are the 4 most beautiful lines ever written in the English language. What follows is not so beautiful, but is something that I wrote based on one of Leonard Cohen's songs. The curfew tells the knell of parting day. The lowing herd winds slowly o'er the lea. The plowman homeward plods his weary way and leaves the world to darkness and to me. It's time to go outdoors tonight. The sky is dark. Some stars are bright. The Milky Way shines overhead now. See ya. A comet rises in the east with end to strife. It brings us peace and calls us to a cosmic hallelujah. 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 Thanks, Scotty. Back to you.
That's great. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Okay, so I am, hold on for just a moment. There we go. There we go. Gary Palmer and I have been working together on Global Star Parties also since the beginning. And Gary never fails to astound and stun people with his incredible images of the sun and deep sky objects, and also with his knowledge. You know, I feel very grateful that he has appeared on so many of our shows. So many of you that watch our programs and have followed our shows have learned some really important processing techniques, ways to get the images into your telescope and with the least amount of work and with the you know, and with a lot of speed, because in the UK they fight clouds a lot, and when they get a break they have to make the best use of it as much as possible. But watching Gary go through PixInsight or some of these other programs so easily is you know, is inspiring in itself. And but Gary loves astronomy and he loves the community, and this is why he's put so much energy into it. If you've taken any of his classes or courses, or you've seen him speak anywhere else, you know what I mean. But Gary, I'll give you the stage and let you.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for the nice comments and words there. I think, and thank you to David. It's really hard following David. You know that each time I do this, it gets more and more difficult. And while David's coming up with something, you're listening to it, you're trying to think of something to
say, right?
Afterwards. And in the end, you just go, I'm going to give up. You know, yeah. Thank you, David. It's really,
thank you. I know he's so
always.
awesome.
It's my pleasure.
Topical and interesting, and makes you think. You know, and thanks to everybody else who's watching us online and who's joined us here tonight. I think with astronomy, on you know, certainly on the astrophotography side, you do get quite complacent with it, I suppose, in a sense. You take these images and you process them up, and I have been an avid one of what I get on the night or on the day is what we post up, rather than just trying to post up the best of anything. It's a case of if it's cloudy that day, or if we had bright moonlight, or whatever the scenario is, or even problems with the equipment. You know, nothing goes smoothly in this world. But to try and come across like that, but you do get a little bit complacent, and sometimes it's not until certain things happen. You might wander along a post that you did a couple of days back in a group or something, and it makes you actually sit back and think. Whereas in a sense, you're a little bit of a machine. You're either working on the equipment, you're working on the images, you're processing them up, and then you're on to the next lot of things, or going off and doing a series of talks. So it's quite interesting seeing, you know, sometimes you don't post for quite a while because of weather or just because you're busy, and then you'll post an image. You just take it as your everyday thing, an average picture, and then all of a sudden it gets shared and liked right across the internet. And it really does make you sit back and think about it for a minute. Whereas before that, you're not paying any interest. And that probably happens with a lot of other people. That, you know, they're just running along in their own area in this, but don't really pay much interest outside that area, in a sense. You'll see other images, you'll like them, you'll comment on them, you know, and you'll praise them. And that doesn't matter whether it's somebody's first image or their 1,000th image. You know, sometimes it does give me a lot of enjoyment to look at some of the images that somebody takes out of the first couple of shots. And I was actually working with somebody yesterday, and I was looking at the data they're getting for one of their first shots, and I thought, wow, they really jumped up the ladder. Yeah, they properly listened to everything and taken the information in, and this raw data in the background now, I'm looking at it and thinking, if I process that, I know exactly what will come out of this. It's stunning data. So, you know, everybody has a different level and a different variation in this. But what makes it enjoyable is everybody joining together. And it doesn't matter what side of astronomy they come from. And I think that's where social media really grips in now with everybody. You know, with this pandemic going on, it's making the world a smaller place. And in all sorts of hobbies and interests. And in astronomy, it's making it a really small place because we've all met. You know, if we weren't doing this, I wouldn't have met David. And, you know, a lot of these people here are on my friends list, but you don't actually talk with them in a sense. You know, you might send each other a message on something, but you don't interact with each other. And that's the enjoyable part of doing this from my point of view. It's not just putting the information across. It's listening to the other people and their interest in astronomy and where their direction is going. Right. So, you know, I don't know what other people on the panel think of that, but that's my view on these sort of virtual style parties. It's not just about us and what the information we're putting across. It's the other people's information.
I think that's what a lot of people say that have been on these programs, because we get to hear someone describe something or share their passion. A lot of people on this program share their passion. They maybe say something on this program about how they really feel in ways that they might not have said to anyone else, you know, but here they are telling the whole world, okay, about what they love about it, what they think is so important about it, how it brings people together, how it dissolves divisions, these kinds of things, you know. So, and kind of the undaunting spirit of amateur astronomers, you know, they will, it doesn't matter what's happened, okay, we're still going to do our thing and try to share it with the whole world. So, I
still think groups of amateur astronomers should be running countries. They're very good at problem solving.
Yes, they are.
You have to look at what problems they come across and how they get around them. Yeah, I'm sure they could do a lot more good in the world in different places.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, Gary, I'm going to let you be the host of this show for the most part. I will be in the background, jumping from scene to scene and trying to keep everybody in line here. Not that that's very hard. So, but why don't you introduce everyone?
Okay. We have, as the screen shows to me, we've got Andreas at the top there from Sweden. Always enjoy Andreas's talks and work. And, you know, it's funny, in distance, we're not overly far from each other. And to be honest, the weather conditions are not a lot different. So I can fully sympathize with Andreas in, you know, how hard it is to get some of the images. And that's what makes it interesting, you know, is seeing what other people do around the world. Steve Ibbotson, imaging, also runs the planetarium, which is probably a little bit more on the quieter side at the moment, I would say. But, you know, again, takes lots of nice images, very interesting person to listen to. Ryan and I have known each other a long time. Again, one of those people where you sort of message every now and then about different bits that are going on. But always like Ryan's images and Ryan's input into things, very, very energetic, and he's very informative, very knowledgeable in the background about all sides of astronomy, really. Shalandra, you're based in London. Is sort of fairly new to it and coming along, you know, leaps and bounds. And it's the same with everybody, you know. I'm the same and was the same. It's 2 steps forwards and 3 steps back, and then another 2 steps forwards, and it gradually comes along. And you know, the key thing is the passion. Francis, I don't know that much about you, Francis, so you're going to have to come across with that. So if you can turn your mic off, and then you can introduce yourself a little bit more on that one.
You can tell he's on a mobile phone. Right? Hold on. There we go. Glasses.
There we go.
Perfect.
Sorry. Hey, everyone. My name is Francis Walsh, and me and astronomy are really partners these days here outside of Houston, Texas, and located in Central Texas, which is known as the Hill Country of Texas. Everybody thinks Texas is flat, but it actually has some hills. We have Cosmic Obsession Observatory Kerbville, which is a roll-off roof observatory with multiple piers that we have been operating now for just over a little bit over a year. It being our second observatory that we built. Our family, myself, my wife, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, my son. There's 5 of us who put a lot of energy into astronomy these days. Now, I could just keep going on, but I want to stop for a second because I want to tell everybody that our family really got involved in astronomy as adults. Probably I was 40 and my in-laws were older. So sometimes we get a lot of views of astronomy and astronomers who've been in astronomy a whole long time, or we'll have younger generations who are getting into astronomy at the younger age, and we celebrate and appreciate all of those things. But I'm finding in my circle here, and I'll expand on that, that impressing astronomy on full-grown adults who've never had an interaction with the night sky is really where I've been focusing. I'm going to put my glasses on, I'm sorry. And I've been paying a lot of attention in my neighborhoods. We all know that with the pandemic, astronomical equipment has been pouring out to the neighborhoods across the world, around the globe. I'm sure everybody knows that more and more households have a telescope, but maybe they don't know exactly what to do with it. And so whenever we started our process of learning about astronomy was back in 2010, and it began with the pass of the International Space Station. And at that point in time, we had drag raced for 25 years, semi-professionally. So that was a whole hobby that for 25 years was built up and produced. And because of that ISS passing over Texas on that night at that time, it was the right time for a transition from what was happening into a love for astronomy and a goal to achieve great insight into imaging, what's out there, when is it out there. Now there's equipment, building structures, learning about piers. Our first observatory, Cosmic Obsession Tomball, was just a mile from me here, and I'm just 40 miles outside of Houston. We built a 3-room observatory. One room on one side was a control room, the other side was equipment room, and in the middle was the telescope room, and it had a big dome on the top. And the pier was 14 feet tall. I say that because after a year and a half of using a 14-foot tall pier, you learn like a 14-foot tall pier is really inconvenient. And and it's just the process. But I want to impress that the power of experience as an adult with this astronomy can come in all different directions. Now, my focus and what I really like to do, and I had a radio program for quite a number of years, and what I would do is there would be news about astronomy, about science on what was recent, relevant, and then I would go and get the scientists who were part of that project. So I go to Southwest Research Institute and call on Dr. Vincent Hugh, and Dr. Vincent Hugh would talk about the Juno, whatever that particular person was about. And so for a number of years, I got the opportunity to talk to Dr. Avi Loeb about the two interstellar travelers. And so as this process started 10 years ago, 2 years later, I'm really deep into learning about astronomy. We're building observatories. Now we're taking our own pictures. The network that we have on social media is, loving what's going on because, though we have all these people here in this group, I find personally there's still few avenues for people to go to and find, what's going on. So I find it my personal duty to go out and try to share as much as you all have. I'm no different than anybody, just in my corner, doing the radio shows and teaching myself. That was, let me say that was probably one of the number one things. When I also started, there was a comet called Lenin, and I'm not going to get into the whole deal, but Comet Lenin had a lot of discussion surrounding Comet Lenin back in around 2010. I told myself the only way I could prove what I was hearing wasn't true because it was negative things is that I had to go out and see it for myself. And what I did is I learned about a little network called Global Telescope. Now it's itelescope.net. And I rented a telescope and pointed it at the comet and watched it move across the sky and was able to dispel a lot of things that people were saying. Now it's a totally left-sided discussion about what people are thinking is going on out in space and what their ideas about that is. But taking that specific situation, and at that point I said, the only way I'm going to be able to prove it to myself is through an observation of the object itself. And then I could come back and have a discussion and tell them.
One of the biggest things in this is people do, after they've been in it a little amount of time, start to come on to teaching people that they have to pass that knowledge across for some reason. And in this hobby, that's it, or this interest, right across the board, it seems to be quite a common thing that joins a lot of people together, that once they start to gather that information, they're passing that across. But what we're going to do, Francis, is going to come back to you in a little while. And what I'm going to do is we've got Suhail from Kosovo, if I'm correct. He's on the team. We've got Carol Lorg, who's president of the Astronomical League. So Carol will be coming in with some door prize questions and some answers and different other bits from what's been going on in past shows and some new questions for this show. There was a question that came in online that's been passed over to me, and that's for David. And somebody wants to know how you search for comments. So I thought I'd get that one out of the way quite early.
Actually, the way I do it for comments is one field of view at a time, Gary.
Yeah, it's being methodical and slow and having the areas worked out so that you're not going back over those same areas too quickly.
Exactly. I go one field and then to the next one, then to the next one, approximately 1 second per field. It is something that requires more than anything else patience. In fact, people ask me what you need for to search for comets. And I said, patience. Need three things: patience, a telescope with a wide field of view, and patience. That's what you need. And if you do it long enough, sooner or later, you should find a comet. Took me 19 years to find my first one. then I kind of got the hang of it and it got a little bit better. Hope that helps.
Do you find that you need a good memory of the actual areas that you're looking at?
It helps, but now with the use of a little thing like this that tells you what the RA and the deck are, you don't need it quite as much as you do before. But a good star atlas is very helpful.
Yeah, because that's one thing that we're probably not so used to using so much these days. With the advent of the go-to telescope and the control systems, the visual planetariums that we've got now. And a lot of those visual planetariums or the telescopes concentrate on the brightest objects in the sky, not necessarily other pointers that step on from those brighter objects, unless you start doing your homework in them.
Yeah, but it's essentially, it's still the way it was back in the day, where you need to have a lot of patience. However, now almost 100% of the new comets are found by the automated professional searches. So I would not recommend that a young person start off searching for comets the way I did so many decades ago. But for me, it's still fun. It's the search that is more important than the discoveries.
I think that's the same in anybody who's in really whatever field. If they're looking for different things, I mean, I was saying earlier, I have it with the sun. It's the chase. You see the object, or you're chasing for an object, so you're hunting all around for. And it's certainly over the last couple of years with a lack of features, you're hunting for the smallest of features now that will just make an image or make a difference to your week. It's been quite a quiet week or a quiet month, so you spend a lot more time going over that and maybe looking in different wavelengths. So, but once you find that, it's then the challenge of getting that. So there's always that challenge process there for everyone. Thanks for that, Logan. What I was going to move to, because I know Ryan's not going to be on too long, so I was actually going to bring Ryan on to introduce himself a little bit and then sort of go into his presentation first, because I know he's only going to be on for around an hour or something like that. Hi, Ryan.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I'll kind of start off with a little story. Astronomy, I love it because, when I got interested when I was a kid, and it's the kind of hobby or profession that you could reach out to anyone in the world and get in contact with and talk about the night sky. And my contact, or one of my contacts early on when I was a kid, was David. And we had communicated by email, and we didn't meet each other until we both went to a star party at a little place called Springfield, Vermont, Stellafane. And we've hit it off and been friends ever since. And gosh, David, that's over 20 years now. So, astronomy is a very humbling hobby, and for some people that gets to lead into a passion. And for those listening to this session, especially the kids, if you got interest, just ask people out there. More than happy, willing to help you and whatnot. It's such an accessible hobby that I'm excited to be a part of. And so kind of what I wanted to do is share my screen. And I'll start out by sharing one of my night sky photographs, and then kind of go through a little bit of a presentation, or some things, some opportunities that I wanted to share with the group. And so I took this with a 10-inch telescope, and literally called that haven't seen it. So in this cloud of dust and gas, outer space is in our galaxy.
Oh, we might have lost Ryan there. I think
Yeah, it's like we did.
Ryan's internet might have broken up a little fraction.
Time is 40, and that's
He's
the
still
result we
connected.
get after some process.
Your internet's breaking up quite a bit there, Ryan. We lost you for quite a bit.
Sorry. Yeah.
I think we lost him altogether. Okay, maybe he can
That's
come
all
back
right.
in a little bit later. No, he's still on.
He's there. There you go.
Yeah. So, sorry about that. I should have
That's all
said earlier. We're getting ready for a winter storm warning, and so we are projected to get 10 to 15 inches of snow in the town.
Wow.
And yeah, right. And like the high on Sunday is going to be 0 degrees, and that's not like
Nice.
freezing at 32. That's 0 degrees.
Ryan, where are you? Where are you?
Montana, and so I'm
Montana.
in the capital city of Montana, and so I don't know while I was talking where things left off, and so I'll just bring up this photo again, and just kind of start there. And one of the things that we do at the Montana Learning Center is we have a great astronomy program. I mean, that's my background, my interest, and I love sharing space with others. Before COVID, even with being a small organization in Montana, our star parties were getting upwards of 250 people at a time. And so it's really exciting to be sharing the night sky with others. What I wanted to do is take a few minutes today and talk about some outstanding opportunities. I realize some of these are more US based, but some of the opportunities can be worldwide too, in terms of some of the NASA partnerships that we work on. And so the Montana Learning Center, the organization which I'm the director of, mainly does science camps for kids and teacher training. But we're also one of 2 NASA partners in the state of Montana, the local university system being the other partner. And we're fortunate enough to provide a series of programs, one of them being NASA Student Challenge. We particularly host the program in Montana, but this is nationwide and also worldwide too. And this can start anywhere from like 3rd grade students all the way up through 12th grade. And, just in terms of relevance, this year's theme, which we're just rolling out, is actually the program's called Roads on Asteroids, and it's part of the Northwest Earth and Space Science Pipeline. We're fortunate to be a member of that. And what the Roads on Asteroids program is it allows kids and their teachers or mentors to engage in robotics, aeronautics, and aerospace, and all in kind of like a competitive atmosphere, but we want kids to have fun while learning. A few years ago, what we did is, if I go back here and scroll down, this is a small shot of one of the teams that I worked with from one of the reservations in Montana. Is the kids would basically recreate or try to recreate a NASA mission using a Lego robot. I actually have the robot that we're going to use this year. This is called a Make Blot. I built this yesterday because I'm getting ready for a teacher training. And it's a programmable robot that the kids actually will land a drone on. And this is kind of like your rover. And they set up a course where they will go around. And let me actually bring up a photo of one of our past competitions. And so you can see that. And so, our first year that we did this, we provided these competition mats. This year, the teams and the kids actually recreate and they create their own competition mat. And so this year it's made around the mission. And so on Vesta, you've got this really exciting feature called the Snowman feature. And we thought what it would be a great way to kind of make this year's challenge around that, and hence Roads on Asteroids. And so, you know, for anyone that's interested, you know, I know like teams in the US, and this can start anywhere from 3rd grade all the way through 12th grade. You know, we are able to provide some support for teams. I know specifically with the Learning Center and our role with overseeing the programs in Montana, we're mainly supporting teams, or our funding allows us to support teams that are underserved, underrepresented audiences. Like last year, we were extremely fortunate to sponsor 12 Native teams from the 7 reservations here in Montana. And so if it is of interest, I've got our website up on the screen, and I'll put it in the chat. And I don't know if Scott or Gary can get it out.
Yeah.
But we've currently got the registration open. You know, I know different states in the US are able to provide different kinds of support based off of the fundraising or the funding that they have. Since teams can do this internationally, the funding that I particularly have, or my organization does, has to stay within Montana, but it's all relatively low cost, and you can recreate or try to recreate a NASA mission with kids and try to do different things like programming and whatnot. Here are some, you know, closer up shots, and, you know, some of the kids had some like creative outfits and whatnot. If you ever have seen First Lego League or Lego League, this kind of puts a space spin on things that I'm really excited to be a part of. And so, you know, we're currently looking for teams, and I realize, you know, with COVID, it kind of puts, you know, it makes the competition real interesting. And so we've planned for that, and, you know, we have information on that. Anyone internationally can go on the website and grab the course curriculum. I was fortunate enough to partner with the national team on this, and we actually came together and wrote literally a curriculum for middle school and high school. And it's aligned to national science standards and math standards and whatnot. But, you know, there's several different units, and we start out with mission planning, talk about planetary geology, astrobiology, and then we mainly get into the nuts and bolts of like robotics and drone programming and whatnot. So I can drop this separate link also to Scott as well to get out. So this is out there. It's free. It's freely accessible. Anyone around the world, as long as you have the internet connection, you can get to it. My specialty, or at least in this project, was Unit 1, and it's basically introducing the kids to space science, how to work like in a team. And it pulls, you know, if you're a teacher, it aligns to standards. It'll give you the full lesson plan, kind of give you a guide of timing and whatnot. And it's, you know, especially in COVID times or the pandemic times, we go into a lot of, you know, how to do this in a small group setting, how to do it in a virtual setting, because many school groups are online and whatnot. And so that's one opportunity I wanted to share. The other one, this is more for the Northwest region in the US. And we currently have our registration, and both opportunities are free. You know, there's no cost if you're able to get sponsored as a team for the robotics challenge. Otherwise, like with the Aerospace Scholars Program, there's very little cost or no cost to this. In fact, we have a heavy scholarship program. We work with the Museum of Flight in Seattle and NASA and the University of Washington on this project. And our registration deadline is coming up in a week, and this is a great program for students that are juniors in high school to get an experience in aerospace and the field. And we actually have registrations open. It closes in a week. It takes about a student an hour or two to do. It's a little lengthy, but it's a really exciting and worthwhile program. Like the students will actually, there's 2 phases. The first phase, and I'll put this link in the chat as well. The first phase has students complete a online course through University of Washington, and that's for students that are based in Northwestern US, and they can obtain 5 college credits for their work. And I mean, you know, it's a pretty cool opportunity to be in high school, get college credits, and, you know, learn about space science at the same time that you can apply to your degree if you go into college. And then phase 2 of that program, the scholars, at least in Montana, will come to us at the Montana Learning Center for a face-to-face experience. Like they work with on the telescopes with me. You know, in non-COVID times, we actually will partner with several groups down at the local airport and take the kids flying. You know, we have a Boeing plant near our facility, and, you know, we'll take the kids for a tour, that sort of thing. So it's a really fun time. You know, we've got a lot of scholarships for kids, you know, that can't afford this type of opportunity. And, you know, that opportunity is open for the next week. I wanted to share those 2. I know it's kind of like a break from my, oops, let me minimize that. I know it's kind of a break from talking about like imaging processing and my own astronomy work. But I did want to kind of close with this before I turn it over. This is our group shot of the group that our class that we just did. And typically, you know, our class that's online, it's usually double in size for Montana. You know, I know, you know, this program's been running for a long time with the Museum of Flight. This is year 5 for us in Montana with the MLC. And, you know, typically we'll have double the amount of students start the program online, and about half will complete it because it is a rigorous course while they're in high school. It's similar to like an AP course. You know, those half come and with teachers. We got to have one teacher for every 6 students that they can have a really good experience. And so I'll kind of open it up if the group's got any questions about either one of these programs. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and copy the links in the chat.
Thanks for that, Ryan. I don't know whether you've actually disconnected again or you can hear me in the background.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I can hear you. Your video's not moving at the moment, though.
I'm trying to remove.
Yeah, we'll carry along for a minute, and Ryan will probably drop back in. But the first program there that Ryan was talking about, your first program there, I actually thought there'd probably be a few parents that might well look at that and take different aspects of that out for children. You know, so it's not just, you know, from an educational point of view, although it covers all of that for schools or teachers or different things. There might well be kids that have got interest in that side of things, and the parents can have a look on there and run through that. But thanks for sharing that, Ryan. It's really interesting to see how other people are doing things. You know, but over here we're a lot different, and I think with this, you know, the pandemic that's going on, people are looking for different things to do. They are hunting around for different information or different projects. It's good to see what you're doing on sort of your side and the interest that's there in that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'll go ahead and put those links into the chat, and then that way we can get the information out.
Yeah.
Like the
I'll
robotics.
share those. I'll share those for you if you want to send them over.
Yeah, one quick note there. with that is like, it doesn't have to be a school group. It can be a scout group, somebody that has an after school program at like a 4-H or in the library, whatever. I mean, it can even be a group of parents getting together with some kids to do some really fun and awesome stuff while they're learning at home during this time too.
Okay, so here's that link going out into chat right now.
Oh, thanks for that, Ryan.
Thank you, guys.
No, that was really interesting. It was good to see a different slant on things and some different areas in it. The robotics side looks really interesting, sitting down and doing that, but that's the engineering head coming out of me. Yeah, for that side of things. What I thought we'd do is have a chat with Carol, and let Carol give us a little bit of information about the Astronomical League again, because you sponsor the door prizes, or some of the door prizes for this event, and you're on lots and lots and lots of these shows. So for other listeners who've not tuned in before, I thought it'd be quite good if you went through a little bit of information for us.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Carol Orge. I'm president of the Astronomical League. It's so good to see Ryan on here. I've talked before about the League's Youth Awards, and Ryan, I don't know how many years ago, he was one of our star applicants for one of the programs, so I have very fond memories of those years back then. So we're still alive and well on those awards, Ryan. So we have the Youth Awards for high school age students. Back just a second, we are 18,000 members strong. Our group is both nationally and internationally, have approximately 300 societies within the U.S. In addition, we have several societies coming online internationally now, so we're very excited about that movement that we're having as well. In addition to the Youth Awards, we have approximately 75 observing awards for any interest that anyone would have, whether it's a beginning program, whether it's an urban program, for a award specifically designed for observing in urban areas where the light pollution is a little stronger than we would like it to be, or whether it's in very caters to very dark skies, such as nebula programs and other dark sky events. So that gives you a little bit of a preview. We are, in fact, just recently, Scott became a sponsor of our newest program, which is a new imaging award, and we're very appreciative of that. That'll be open to the adults. From the youth angle, we already have an image award in place there. So we're very thrilled about that. In addition, Explore Scientific sponsors the National Young Astronomer Award program, as well as the Peltier Award program for adult astronomers. So we're very, very grateful for that.
Now, I was amazed on this because I'm a member at large, and I was looking through what you do. Yeah, I was looking on the website, and I was actually thinking I should have been a member at large when I was about 14 to get through some of these achievements.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and you might just now be finishing some of those observing awards. So.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because yes, the Members at Large is a very good program as well. For those who don't have an astronomy club close to their neighborhood, that's a very, very nice thing to do. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
No problem. It is really interesting, and it's, again, by looking through those observing awards and different things, it does take your mind onto other parts of the industry or the hobby itself. So you can get sort of fairly mind tracked in what you're doing, maybe imaging or but there's lots of other types of imaging that you can go on to do, and then observing. You know,
amateur astronomers always want an additional challenge, and so we're constantly bringing new awards online. And we have what's called a Master Observer Award, and that's when the observers who have almost run out of anything to observe that has a certificate attached to it, they get a certificate and plaque recognizing them as a Master Observer. And that we make a big deal of that at our Alcon conventions, which is the national organization. Of course, these times we're in right now is put a crimp in the style as far as having conventions. In fact, I was just on the phone before this meeting today with our Albuquerque group, who hopefully is going to sponsor our 2021 convention the first week in August. But just a couple of days ago, COVID had other plans for the state of New Mexico, and they're shut back down in large measure. So sign of the times, but hopefully it'll all turn around very soon.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think it's just a case of everybody working around these different problems, isn't it? You know, really, to be honest, nobody knows what's going to happen in 2 weeks or a month's time at the moment, and we just, you know, work around that and move along and still get along, and you know, encourage everybody to enjoy themselves as much as they can in this time.
And it's so refreshing. I know we've all been on these kind of learning curves on these type of programs, but I tell you, it's really expanded the reach considerably. So it's a good thing out of all this.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks. Suhel, you're out in Kosovo, yeah,
Yes.
which is over this side. It's out in the European side. So would you like to explain really where you're from, where it's around, yeah, so people have got an idea, and what you know what you do, yeah, what's your passion in astronomy?
Thank you, Gary. Hello, everybody. It's such an honor to be among you guys, and thank you, Scott, for inviting to be part of this star party. It's my first time. Yesterday we had the chance with Scott I was part of the Open Go-To community, which also shared with the audience what's happening here in Kosovo. Kosovo is a small country located in the Balkans, in Europe, and we have one of the youngest population here in Kosovo, in Europe, sorry. And what we're doing here is we're trying to spread the knowledge of science and astronomy to all the people here in Kosovo. I have what I'm going to be talking here is an old observatory that we have here in Kosovo that was not being used for like 40 years. And we were founded in 2014, and we're trying to bring it back to life. Maybe I can share my screen here, just a second. So I'm very honored to be part of the Explore Alliance membership, one of the newest members. And it's very nice because now we have the support of the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Education and the Pristina municipality for the activities. But before I continue, I have a really important announcement to make. So I found out what's happening with the toilet paper.
Oh.
I know.
So that's where it's been going.
Yeah. So I finally, after so many months researching and looking, now we know where all the toilet papers are going. So people are just buying them to make telescopes. This picture of it, of a close friend of mine, is Jean-Pierre. So for those people who don't know me, this is like a short bio. I'm also a national coordinator of Astronomers Without Borders, and I was recently appointed as a European Young Ambassador, which I will be representing Kosovo in the European Union. And the passion of astronomy came from an early age. Since an early age, I was involved in the volunteer work and activism. This is my first telescope. It was a 60 millimeters. It was a gift from Mr. Sabit Goshe. So this is where everything started. My passion for astronomy. It's very bad because in Kosovo we have a lot of lacks of astronomy and a lot of lacks of equipment. So we basically started with just one telescope, and we were founded in 2014. And when different astronomers like you guys and other friends who were seeing what we're doing here in Kosovo, they wanted to support us with equipment. So they did. They brought so many equipments here in Kosovo, which we used and we are still using. And these are some of the members that we have, which we wouldn't have been here where we are if it wasn't for them. And I said we had the chance to have the 4 One Sky telescopes. It was a crowdfund campaign by Astronomers Without Borders, and we got so many educational materials which we distributed for free in our events. So we organized so many events. Everything is in a voluntary basis, and also we're part of the Starshine for Everyone program. It's a program which Jean-Pierre from Belgium, he is distributing free telescopes to countries that they need. So we were among them. So it's very interesting wooden mount here. This was one of the events that we had, and we've been using them ever since. And for the moment, this is the largest telescope we have. It's from Brasser, and it's 152 millimeters in diameter. But what we're Observatory of Pristina, as everybody might know, Kosovo has a lot of flags, and we've been trying to, throughout our activities, to promote science here. So this observatory here, it was functional in the 80s. So can you believe it's not been using like for 40 years? And now it's finally in our possession, and we found this very old picture that I wanted to share with everybody. And this is now the observatory. Kosovo doesn't have one, and we want to put it back to use. Unfortunately, the municipality of Pristina is going to help us renovate this observatory, which we're going to open it for the public. It's not in the best location, but for the moment it's very good because it's like a meeting point, because a lot of people are asking us if we have like an office or something, so people can come here and observe. This is a small video made by a very popular TV here in Kosovo. It's called Kan Kosova, and it's telling how other countries have these big observatories, but in Kosovo there is no observatory. And it's telling what we're doing towards renovating the observatory here in Kosovo, because next year we celebrate 7 years. As I said, everything is on a voluntary basis. We've been organizing so many events with the equipments we have, but of course we lack in equipments because we still need like planetary cameras and other equipment so we can give the astronomy to the public here. So this is Pristina, the capital. This is, actually there's a telescope here. It comes from USSR. It's very old. This dome rotates 360 degrees. And interesting fact about the dome is because the origin of the dome is from Ash Dome, Illinois.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's coming from Ash Dome. So we've been in contact with CO, and they've been helping us with some equipment so we can put it back to use. This is just like to tell the public that there's an observatory here in Kosovo, and that people can, in the near future, they can come and observe. And we're still raising like donations. We're not thinking about what kind of telescope to put it inside. So the original LIT was founded in 1979 by a group called the Kosovo Young Research, and it kind of feels like it's very old because it's just sitting here. So this in the background you can see there's some of our members, and it's very important because probably, I don't know about other countries in the Balkans, but we had like conflict in the 1990s in the former Yugoslavia, and so a lot of buildings are destroyed. But thankfully, this observatory survived for so many years.
That's very fortunate.
Yeah. I wanted to stop more about to talk about this observatory. And this is me trying to be fun. So many donations. We have also have, for the first time in Kosovo, people are observing two hydrogen alpha telescopes. We had a discount from Coronado. And also we've been receiving solar glasses here in Kosovo because people are observing for the first time through solar glasses, and it's very huge step because all of our activities that we're doing are making a huge impact and difference in the community here. And I know, Scott, I mentioned yesterday, we also won like a grant from the United Nations in Kosovo,
Yes.
which we wanted to include all communities living here in Kosovo.
That's amazing.
So we called the initiative Under One Sky, and the meaning of it is like we wanted to break all inter-ethnic barriers through astronomy. So we've been going to the cities where the majority is from other minorities, and we're trying to tell them that no matter where you come from or what ethnicity you belong, astronomy can bring us together, and we can share the wonders of the universe together. This is Pranvera Begole. She's explaining what we have done it until now. So Kosovo is like 95% Albanian, but we also have other minorities. This is why we have the 6 stars in our flag. And these are some of the materials that we tell the size comparison, the Earth compared to the sun. And so, as you see, it's very accessible to the people. And so we have this cooperation with the education department. So schools can come and students can come and visit the observatory, which would be something very interesting for the people.
Excellent.
So this is Nurtena, is one of the founders of the Astronomy Club. And it's so compared to where we were 7 years ago, we really made a huge impact here in the community, because people are shocked when they look through a telescope for the first time, or when they see that there's an astronomy club here in Kosovo. It's very interesting because for the first time we're organizing these events, and because as you know, there should be someone who are giving this opportunity to people, because as you know, the United States and other countries are very developed in this field, and we are still in the beginning. But as I say, great things have small beginnings. And this is what we think like the observatory should look like. This is an artistic vision, what we're going to do. And our future project, so there we have this Astronomic Commission is part of the Ministry of Education. Different professionals from Kosovo are gathered together, and we made this. It's for the moment it's a project in the paper, but we hope to make it possible in the near future. So it's a scientific center of Kosovo. Of course, they should be far away from city lights, and we really want to build this and just be part of like every other countries who are investing in science and education, and we really want this to happen. And this is one of my favorite pictures, because no matter if you're old or young, or astronomy can be for everyone. And this picture makes my day, because it's when we go to these schools is very to see like these young people have so many ambition, and they know so many things about the space and the universe, and they are the future of our country. As Carl Sagan says, that we should invest more in our children, because they are the future of the country.
Yes.
Right now, this is my presentation. I don't know if somebody...
Do you find you have... Thanks, Suhail. Do you find you have as much interest from the adults there as you do from the children?
Actually, most of our members in our astronomy clubs are from younger generations. Unfortunately, older generation, they don't have so many interesting in the field of astronomy or science in general. What we're doing, we're going to every school, we're teaching the teachers, the professor how to practically use a telescope, because most of the schools, they have telescopes, but they don't have enough knowledge how to use them. And most of the older generation, for example, when we have like public observation, they don't believe what they're seeing. They sometimes mistake it with a camera, or they say like, you put a picture, this is not true. So it's very interesting. It's very funny. I like what I do because we're not just spreading the knowledge of science, but also have a chance to meet different people coming from different backgrounds. And it's very nice because I meet a lot of people, and it's such an interesting hobby here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really interesting, again, to see how other people are dealing with it. And one of the things that I'm noticing there on what you were saying was that in the UK, and I've heard it mentioned in the US and other places that I've been to, that it seems to be more older people that are interested in the hobby rather than the young people. The young people have already got an interest there, but a lot of the organisations are filled with older people. So it's quite interesting to see the differences between the different cultures and what's happening.
We talked yesterday at the Open Go-To community that Kosovo has one of the youngest population in Europe, and the younger generations are doing the astronomy, the outreach, because the older generations, like our professors, they can directly talk about astronomy, but at their time they didn't have these possibilities, like the equipments, and all that we're doing is thanks to you guys who are donating them here in Kosovo, so we can use it in the good of community. And for the first time, people are observing through telescopes, and we're trying to break all the barriers. And why not, like, I hope in the near future, Kosovo, or me personally, or other members in our astronomy clubs can discover like asteroids or other important things, so that we can be in the history.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's a nice goal for those younger people to look at, isn't it? It's something to look up to, and, you know, look back in history across the world, really, on what people have discovered, and then become part of that. You know,
yes,
hopefully they
so
come along and complete that in the future.
It's so nice because now in Kosovo there are so many other formal or non-formal groups here who are doing astronomies in their city, and we're helping them develop as a group, so we can have like representatives in other cities and spread it as much as possible.
Cool. Thanks very much, Suzel.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. Okay, I think what we're going to do is we're going to go to Carol to ask the door prize questions, and then we're going to have a break and come over to Shilandra, because he's running some live images. And I did have a quick look outside. It's sort of clear here, but I'm not going to trust it because I do know there's rain coming in, and I'll be sitting here and yeah, the screens will go down where it's all got wet. So what we do is go over to Carol and run through the door prize questions, and then we're going to have a break for 10 minutes.
Okay. Let's see. Let me share my screen here. The first thing I'd like to do before we talk about the prizes, we are wanting everyone to know, because some of the prizes that are won will be such things as eyepieces and other optics. So we want to make sure that everyone's being safe. So we want to put this statement up here about observing the sun, how you should never look directly at the sun. Most of you already know that, but it's good to see the reminder. And now let's give the answers to the last GSP Star Party. And this was presented by John Goss at that one. The first question we ask, what is the closest planet to Earth right now? What planet comes closest to Earth? And what planet is closest to Earth the most often? And the answers were, respectively, the closest planet to Earth right now, Mars. What planet comes closest to Earth? Venus. What planet is closest to Earth the most often? Mercury. And the winner was Larry Berge, I think is how you pronounce that one. And congratulations. Question number 2 from the previous Star Party. The first person to use a telescope to study the moon in a scientific manner was Galileo in 1609 and 1610. Why were his observations considered to be so important, even revolutionary? The answer is, let's see, he found that the silvery orb was not perfectly smooth, as had been taught by ancient astronomers and philosophers, throwing doubt on their Earth-centered model of the universe. Second item there, he found that the moon had seas containing life. That was one of the options. And the answer was A, which he found that the silvery orb was not perfectly smooth, as had been taught by ancient astronomers. Lucky winner is Andrew Corkill. Congratulations, Andrew. Number 3, how many AL, that's Astronomical League, Messier Observing Program certificates have been earned? The answer is approximately 2,900, and that's been in effect for probably 30 some years. The winner is Matthew Walshy. And now let's turn to tonight's questions. Question number 1. How much would a 100-pound person, that is 45.3 kilograms, weigh on the planet Mars? How much would a 100-pound person weigh on the planet Mars?
So a 100-pound person on Earth, right?
Yeah, 100-pound person on Mars.
On Earth, weigh on Mars.
On the planet Mars.
Okay.
Okay. So think about that for just a second. And send your submissions in to Kent at Explore Scientific, and I think Scott's got the exact address there.
Actually, we changed the address to explorealliance@explorescientific.com. So I put that up in the chat.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. So now question number 2. What is the planet Uranus's closest moon? Uranus's closest moon. Number 3. How do red giant stars get their name? Now, there's more than just the obvious answer, so you need to elaborate just a little bit on that one. So as soon as you get all these done, send them in to the address that Scott's posting.
Yeah, to explorealliance@explorescientific.com. You can see it in chat there. And we really want to thank the Astronomical League for being the official sponsor of the Explore Alliance and all of its programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And we're so privileged to be involved with you in this project. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Carol. Okay, so we are going to go on to, we're going to take us on to about a 10-minute break, and then we'll be right back.
Cool. I'm going to grab a drink.
Well, hello, everybody. You are watching the 17th Global Star Party. This is what we call the European edition because it's the night time's more centered around that corner of the Earth. And tonight with us is Gary Palmer, Andreas Nilsson, Shailendra Sharma, and Steve Edmondson, and Suhail Ahmadi, who was with us from Kosovo. So I'll let Gary, I'll let you introduce Shailendra, and we'll go from there. I think he has something live in the scope.
Yeah, I believe he has. Shailendra has been on with us a few times in the past. And it's gradually getting into the swing of the astronomy scene, and has produced some quite good images so far. So I'm going to hand over to you, Shailendra, and you can run through what you've got.
Yeah, cheers, Gary. Thanks. Let me just share my screen. So I've been going since 9 o'clock on this. And my guiding's not been great in areas, and I'm not really sure why. I have an inkling into why, but I'll just show you some of the early data. Here's something from the HA. Now, this is the first full session I would have done on narrowband. I've never done a narrowband full session yet with all 3 filters. I've got the odd image here and there, as you know, because of the clouds in England. And I tried to do it last night while cloud dodging, and I haven't checked the data yet. But this, for a 5-minute sub on the HA today, has been pretty good seeing conditions.
Nice.
Now, I have noticed, because while I was looking at the oxygen filter, I was thinking, did I get my focus wrong? But looking at the first image, I don't think I did. And then looking at this one, the focus looks a little bit out on the oxygen. But then what I did notice is if I go back to the sulfur, the focus came back. So I think next time what I'll do is do the oxygen after the hydrogen, the sulfur, and then refocus. But
So what you'll find is that your oxygen 3 is down in the green blue area, and your hydrogen alpha and your sulfur are in the red area. So their focus, depending on the filters, and the manufacturer filter, can be a lot closer than the oxygen. So then if you move to illuminance, you would see that the focus would go completely out because the filter is looking again at a different distance, to the actual target, and creates a different difference on the sensor. So if you zoom, the easiest way of doing this is just one night is to practice by going on to one of the brighter stars like Vega.
Right.
If you have a focus mask, that's the easiest way to look at this, because that will show you quickly, the distances between your filters. And what you do is you put the focus mask on, set up for a refresh rate, 5 seconds with a little bit higher gain so that you can see the star. And then as you swap the filters, you'll see the focus changing. And then you'll get understanding. So if you look at your which way you focus your focuser, whether it's in or out for that particular filter, you get an understanding of what way you need to go very slightly for each filter. There's some filters they call aplanic, flat. In the real world, with the UK seeing conditions, it could be anything. It could be high cloud, could be condensation on a filter. There are so many things, but the first thing I would say, try the focus mask, and you'll get used to it. Sometimes you get away with it, but another time, if it's the weaker filter, it can really affect the images. And you'll notice it pulls the stars out. The stars go very wide, but it's starting to look pretty good. So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, looking at the seeing conditions today, I mean, if you look at that, normally I could maybe see 5 of those, but I can see quite a lot of stars today. And then I've had Astro Toaster stacking it in the background, and that's what it's come out with so far from all of the filters. Whether
So-
my image will look anything like that at the end of it is a different matter, right? But
one thing that I was looking at on your guiding there, which might be a help, and this depends, each mount is different, even 2 mounts from the same manufacturer, is maybe to up your timing, because at 1 second, you're actually pulsing to the mount very fast on commands.
okay.
So you can get a lag in the mount every now and then, right? So the pulsing's going, come on, move, and the mount's going, yeah, all right, I'm moving, and then all of a sudden the pulsing's going, right, I want it to move the other direction, and the mount's going, well, I'm still moving this way.
Oh, well,
I mean?
yeah,
So-
because I mean, I've noticed today, I think I took my mount and everything out last weekend to test the batteries that I'd bought, and I've put it back together. And what I think I've done is I think I've over tightened some of the cables, because this star is normally in the center, and it was to start with.
Yeah.
But gradually over time, look, now it's going back, right? But it keeps doing that a lot. And normally these milliseconds are normally around the 200. And if it's giving me anything at all, that I hardly get anything in deck. But the decks keep shooting up, shooting back down, and this is having to readjust back. So yeah, I think I've got an inkling of what it is, but yeah.
If you get a distortion in the atmosphere, 1 second is not a lot for a guide camera to try and punch through it. So by bringing that up, yeah, it's actually steadying the star. I mean, a lot of mounts you can actually run up to, say, 3 seconds on the guide star, 3.5 seconds. It is different.
Okay. So what would you recommend? Like 2 seconds?
I normally run on 2 seconds with most of my systems, but I do get the odd mount come in where I have to raise that up. Yeah, it's different for each imaging session in a sense. But I do know how much the atmospherics in the UK really don't help the guiding, and depending on the aperture of the guide scope and pixel ratio and things like that, in general, I would be running at 2 seconds. But what you might find that you have to do is stop the guiding and go through a recalibration, because if you just change the timing, it's not going to recalibrate it to the mount.
Yeah, see, I did a recalibration today because I'd moved a few things around. So I thought, right, I'll recalibrate before I start the session. And the recalibration came out fine, but since it's been going through the image stages, that it keeps knocking itself out and then coming back in.
But
and although the total there is not too bad, right?
Yeah.
And normally, if it was that, my star would be in the center. But I think what I've done is I tidied up some extra cables, and I think I might have over tightened the central bit on the deck, and that I think is restricting it slightly from going
the
one
other
way.
thing as well, I just want to say there, hi Chuck. I can see you joined us there in the background from the Astronomical League.
Yes.
The other thing as well that I was going to say is bear in mind with the balancing on the mount that some people go too critical with the balancing, and they try to get the telescope absolutely perfectly balanced. And the problem with that, is that in certain parts of the sky on certain targets, the gears are not meshed. So as your guiding sends a pulse through, the gears are not even really meshing properly, and it's what we call free floating. So the telescope's pointing at the target, it's tracking on the target, but the gears are not meshed enough to actually start moving for guiding in one direction or the other. So it's worth bearing in mind on both axes just to leave a little bit of overbalance, and it meshes the gears. And you might find a quicker response then on your guiding as well.
Oh, okay. I'll try that, because I think you're right. It is pretty much bang on balance on both axes.
Yeah, and you can find that causes a big problem. I have a tendency on most mounts just to slightly overbalance it in each axis, yeah, in one direction, forward or minus, yeah, on the scope, and the same on the counterweight. And then that meshes the gears together. So if you think about the gears, they're like that. They're loose at a certain point. And I generally always find that it's up around bodes. Bodes can be a real pain on some mounts to get into because the telescope goes into a free float in that area. Yeah, and you're finding like your guiding's been working, you know, every other location of the sky, and you get up there and that's it. Yeah, the guiding all goes to pot, and you're playing around with the calibration and playing around with settings. So I always slightly overbalance unless a mount doesn't require it, and you'll soon notice that, you know, it'll be a mount that the guiding goes to pot, and you just have to reset the balance on it.
Right, okay.
So,
Yeah, see,
yeah,
what I've trying to been do is get one balance for all. And so far, it's been successful. Apart from tonight, it's giving me a little bit of jip.
I used to use, and I still use it on all sorts of things, but Tipex, yeah, and mark where the balance point is. So when you're setting up, your counterweights just go straight on. Your scope goes into that mark on the shoe, and the same with like the adapters that go on the cameras. Yeah, I'll mark them with a little bit of Tipex then, and you know, once you're finished with that run and change your equipment over, you just rub the Tipex off. But it's a good way of getting everything aligned really quickly and getting you know, more or less balanced pretty fast. Because in the UK, we're covered in cloud. Yeah, you know, so if we're going gap hunting, yeah, you got to be pretty lively on the setup there. So you come up with all of these different little ways of doing it.
Yeah, yeah, I was going to try that. I'm going to get a Sharpie. I'm just going to put it on there permanently. Draw it everywhere.
Just a little bit of Tipex. And, you know, on systems before we had all of this plate solving and rotators and everything, if I wanted the camera in the same alignment for the next night, I would put 2 marks on the tube to the camera and 2 marks on the back end of the telescope, so it aligned exactly where I had it the night before. Yeah, and that way, you know, you're only going to be, you know, a very, very slight tilt on the rotation out.
Yeah.
But in stacking, you're just going to literally just crop the edges off, which are no different than normal. You know, you always get stacking errors there to crop off anyway. Yeah. So you pick these little bits up as you go along. Or I always say, people say a wise person learns by his mistakes, and I always say a wise person learns by others' mistakes. Yeah, if they pay interest in what others are doing, yeah, they pick up what mistakes are made.
Yeah. Well, I've got my session coming up with you, Gary, so I should hopefully pick up some more tips on the editing part.
Yeah, cool. Looking forward to that. That'd be good. We'll probably organise that for next week at the moment.
Yeah, cheers.
Excellent. So thanks for that. What we're going to do is Andreas is going to be up later than Steve and I. Yeah, so we're going to run over to Andreas, who's always interesting. Lives in Sweden, puts up with very similar weather as what we said to the UK, probably a bit colder and a bit more snow. But yeah, why don't you go, Andreas?
Thank you, Gary, for the invite. And it's always a pleasure to be part of the GSP. And if been for this pandemic, I would never met you cool guys at on these shows. So and it's always cool to share experience with other people around the world. And I think astronomy unites people from all over the world, different kind of religion. So, and I think I was 15 or 16 when I saw my first eyes through a solar telescope. It was a Bressler, and that changed my mind. They changed my view of the space. So that kept me interested in astronomy. And later on, I bought a own scope 2-3 years ago, my first ASCO telescopes, and so on. I have been more and more interested, and for 2 or 3 years I have started imaging, and now I'm going to share some images or share some tips. I think, did I share this the right screen? Yes. This is the right, hopefully.
Yep, that all looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I live in, as you say, Stockholm, Sweden. And this is 59 parallel. So this is when you draw it around the world, you end up in Alaska and in the middle of Hudson Bay. So I can show you on the map where here's Sweden. This is taken from aurora forecast that predicts auroras around the world. And here's the parallel go around. So Stockholm is in the southern part of Alaska. So I can see auroras here in Stockholm if it's strong enough. It must have stronger than 5.5 in the Kerbville scale. And the Kerbville scale is probably how strong the aurora is. So this is when we can see it in Stockholm. So you can see it further south also, but you have to go up north to see it. And we have bad weather, but I have got a few nights with new some clear skies and get some good data. And half the country is covered in snow, so we have challenges with very cold at winter and very warm at summer, and the very turbulent weather like in the UK. So when I imaging, the stuff I use is suppression pads. That's very good to have on your mount, so you don't get any vibrations. A Batinov mask is very handy to focus, so you get pinpoint sharpness, and it's very easy to focus and get pinpoint the stars. So it's helped me a lot to doing some imaging. And for 1 year, my Feather Touch focuser died and got broken. And I saw a guy, Dylan O'Donnell, on the internet, and he showed me who doing with a cloth pin. So then you can just nudge it with the fingers. This is a cool trick you can do with SAT or endoscope. So you nudge it with your fingers. And you got to 1:5 ratio. So this is a very cool trick to learn. Some insight. And when I'm imaging, I always plan for the weather and all the clear skies. And I learned from a guy in Canada. He's called Sean Nilsson. Has an Astro channel called The Visible Dark Sky, and I learned about PixInsight, and he has a great video showing of how to do a custom solarium. So I did that. I took one, this is from my inner yard, and this is from my outer yard, and then I stitch it together to do an image that I could fit, but I can't see 360, but I guessed, so it should fit together. And then when you stack it in stellarium, it looks like this. And then you have, then I can plan with the equatorial and how much time I have on each target. So I know where the M42 came up and how much time I have on the sky on this evening, so I can plan it where I have a building in front, so I can know where it passes some 4G towers and so on. So this is something how I plan my imaging. And and this I This time I showed you, this is from summer. I do some solar imaging. I've done a lot of that. And when I do, when I use a Daystar Quark and my Explore Scientific, and then when I shoot, I overexpose it. When I want to have the detail of the plasma is coming out from the sun. And then I just stack an image and then produce an image and bring out the colors. And this one is shot by regular standard, so I get both sides. So one overexposure, and this is in right exposure, so you can see a lot of stuff coming out of the sun. It's pretty cool. And this is normally look when I image the sun. Here you can see sunspot from the summer. It's called 2770. And I stack this to an image and process this. This is quite sharpened image of the sun from this summer. So last week I shot Mars, and it was pretty windy. I think it was 17 miles an hour in US, I guess, in the wind, but it's get down in the middle, so I had to try to shoot it. And this is raw data coming out from my Mars photography. When I focus on Mars, many uses to focus on the detail. I have a quite other solution to that. I look at the wobbles in the stars with the blue filter, and when there's wobbles, the less. Then I have got all filters into sharpness, and that really worked well when I stacked the image. So this is my image of Mars. So you can see Olympus Mons here. And this is pretty much what you get out from C8 systems, and around 25,000 images stacked.
Wow.
So this is about 3 minutes, 1 minute each. I shoot with a 174 mm mono, and then I just align it, process them in Lightroom. So this is how I do planet photography. And also from a week ago, I shot nebulosity called NGC 132, called Embryo Galaxy. It was the first that I got clouds from my location, my Bortle-8 Nine Skies. So I can, so I got a lot of dust that normally don't show up in the city when I shoot from. They always get lost. But this was the first image that revealed that dust. So it's hopefully it's hope here in Stockholm to use the right camera, right kind of exposure, and to bring out the detail. So I'm very excited for the whole coming year to shoot Orion and Orson Flame Nebula to get a lot of details. So it's very exciting to use this camera. I used a couple of times. So this is probably what I have to share this time, I guess.
You've got some really nice detail in it. Bearing in mind, I know what your light pollution there is like. There is some detail there, and you know, as you move along, it's just adding more time to it, more data to it, and it brings out more and more of those faint clouds in the background. So yeah, you know, provided you get the clear skies, it's going to be interesting to see what you get in, you know, a month or 6 weeks on a few of these objects.
Yeah, I see all the progress all the time. So hopefully, it's always depend on the weather. The weather has been poor, and I didn't think I would get anything of this target. For the NGC 133 is very small target for a hyperstar system. And I just tried it out if it worked, and I got an image of it. So it surprised even me to reveal so much detail in 1 hour and 25 seconds, in 25 minutes with the hyperstar system. So it's worked very well. Normally I want to shoot longer time, but the problem is always weather. It's always when I shoot it from a balcony, I have from 17 degrees up to 55, and then I can't shoot that target, and then I have to wait to the next level, next time to shoot it. And then it's probably poor weather, and I normally don't shoot when the moon is out. I can shoot now. I can shoot with narrowband, of course, but this is a broadband image. And the reflection nebulas are the most hard to shoot from Stockholm.
But also, you have to take into account some other things here that you're not mentioning. And they're things that I just know in general through imaging. And I know that if you're imaging off of a balcony, it's not just light pollution. There's going to be heat distortion, you know, all sorts of different other little factors that come in on this. And that will change. So by getting these, you know, you're doing a good job there. Doing a really good job.
Yeah, I have a street outside with a lot of lamps. So that's one type of light. So in Stockholm, we have a mixture of LED lights and regular lights. So there's the light pollution don't cut everything out, but the narrow bands are great to take every light pollution away. But that's the problem. I can't shoot narrow band with this reflection type of targets. I must shoot broadband to reveal all the gas and dust in it.
But you're also using the fast imaging system, and this is the thing as technology has moved along over the last few years, certainly with the speed of CMOS cameras and using them on a fast imaging system. It's making light pollution, or it's not making light pollution, but it's allowing you to image around light pollution a lot easier now by using shorter times. Whereas a few years back when we were just on the CCD cameras, it was quite an art to get through that.
Oh, yeah.
But they look really good. They look very good.
Excellent.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem. It's always a pleasure to share.
It's always a pleasure to have you on.
It's always a pleasure to meet fellow astronomers, and it's also always humble to get invited in the first place. So it's always a pleasure to.
And I think from my point of view, you know, not just your image is good, and I can see, you know, where you're going each time that you've come on. You are pushing that point, you know, that more and more across the world, people are living in light polluted areas. So you're showing them that, you know, I think what it is a lot of people are too used to old sayings. Well, that you can't do that from there, or you can't do this. And this is showing that you can do this. Yeah, it will take a little bit of learning. It'll take a little bit different way for you, maybe to someone else. But it is possible to do these things from those locations.
Yeah. I also share my experience with others. We have a community in Facebook they call Astropixel, and I always try to help other people if they need advice. If I can help, we are trying to help each other. So this is one great about astronomy, and I have others that use that kind of system now, the hyperstar system, and more and more get to see the benefits of using that kind of system. Well, not just for my part of bad skies, but even a dark sky.
Yeah.
If you shoot from a dark sky, you can put the gain down and use the whole full well of the camera and get great detail. So it is different kind when where you live. So I have to adopt my technique to my solution, my part of the sky. So I study Chuck when he imaging, and he's great inspiring to do solar and Astro Backyard. I always follow him. A guy called Dylan O'Donnell, and I follow all his channel to incorporate new techniques and maybe change it to fit my bill or fit if I can do something special. Always thinking out the box. So
the thing is you're using an F2 2.2 system, and
yes, the F1.9.
Yeah. So, and a lot of people think, well, I'm going to go for an F2 system. You know, I'm going to get around, but there's a whole host of other problems come in when you use a fast system that you don't think about when you're using a normal, say, F5 to F7 refractor. And there's all sorts of different things that come in on this. And one of the key things is, you know, alignment of the mirrors in them. It's got to be absolutely perfect. Any little errors on there, you know, and you're going to get your stars flaring out and all of those sorts of things. So it is what I call a whole round package, you know, that's got to be attained to get the image. It's not just a case of, you know, putting it all together. It's actually keeping it all together and keeping it all running.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks very much for sharing that. It's really
no
interesting.
Problem. It's
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to talk about astronomy, and I wonder if is always this pandemic, or we can call it, has brought maybe people that don't meet in the regular circumstances. I have always wanted to travel to NIF to meet fellow astronomers, but this is also cool to meet them. I hope this will also be sustainable in the future.
And I think it's more informative.
Around the world.
I think it's more informative in a sense because, you know, Scott and I have been to NIF. You know, we turn up there, we're setting our equipment up, we're racing around with customers. Mm-hmm. We might be lucky if we actually talk for 5 seconds through a whole weekend as we're continually passing each other at these events. You'd be surprised that you don't really interact with a lot of people at these events unless you're going there to meet other astronomers. Certainly when you work in the background at these events, they're quite a stressful time to get everything, you know, people who turn up at an event, they turn up there and everything's all on display for them, you know, everything's all done. Whereas when you work in the background of these events, in the couple of weeks coming up to them and then the days that they're running, they're really quite stressful to get them. They're enjoyable, but they're still stressful to make sure you've got everything there and it's all set up and it's all running. I never get to go to the shows as just a normal person. Yeah, I'm always working at the shows, pretty much like what Scott is. So you do see a different side to it then. And I think these are just a lot more informative. You know, it's a lot more relaxing. People get a lot more information out of it. And, you know, we still answer the same questions in the chat here as what we'd be asked at the shows.
Yeah, and no long lines in airports.
Yeah. I remember going into Dallas about 4 years ago for a connection to Kansas. And Dallas just decided to close the airport down and scrutinize every single passenger when 4 planes had landed.
Yeah. So
it was nearly 5 hours just to get through the airport. Yeah, and I think something stupid. It was about 12 o'clock at night. And I think there was a hotel right above the airport, and I just went, I'm going in there for the night. That's it. The time I got in there was like about 1:30 in the morning, and I had the connecting flight, first flight out at sort of 6 in the morning, something like that. So it was sort of $300 for the hotel for about 4 hours, something stupid overnight. But that happens. That's part of traveling around to these events, and as this sort of thing kicks in, I think it's going to make more of a difference and slow different things up in different areas. As we get back to a new normal, it's probably going to become more stressful.
Yeah, what is that? What is the new normal?
Yeah, well, we've gone back in again. We're tonight, 6 p.m. tonight, we've gone back into a lockdown here for 2 weeks, and that's a full lockdown.
Wow.
So all pubs, bars closed again. Now while that doesn't necessarily affect me, I'm remote. I'm up in the mountains. It does affect people in the busier cities, that are further down South Wales or up in North Wales. And you just don't know what's going to come up now. You can't really plan. I mean, in the real world, I suppose, back in about July, we were thinking maybe November, we might start putting on a few more, imaging workshops at events and places like that. But probably not going to be till, mid next year at this rate, if at all then. So this sort of thing's going to move on, I think, and continue going and continue growing.
Right. Someone named Pekka Hotala, I think is how you pronounce it, says, Andreas has helped me a lot in astrophotography here in Stockholm. Everything I can do today is thanks to him. So
thank you.
Good job, Andreas. That's great.
Humbling.
Yeah.
It's always a humbling experience to meet. First time I was on the show, I think, oh my God, there's a lot of people that scientists and stuff, and then you start meeting them, then just normal people like me, and I get more and more relaxed doing this, and every time. So it's always a learning curve. And also, when I look back to myself, if I ask myself a year ago, I probably wouldn't do anything like this. But this is, I think it was someone to push me over the threshold to do this. So it's always fun to do this kind of thing now. So.
That's the same with me. For probably a year, people have been asking me in the US to do online stuff, and I've been too busy. And now it's sort of pushed that side because we've quietened down on the other things to do. I think like the Zoom platform's come along a long way, hasn't it? It's helped us all. A year ago, everybody was a bit skeptical, and sometimes we've used Skype and different other things. For these sorts of things, and we find the failure in that or the plus point in that, and then it's taken us probably a good few of these star parties as well to find where we're comfortable, what systems we're using, and the odd failure here or there, but that's what happens. But anyway, we're going to move over to Steve. Based in the UK, same as me. See lots of your astro images come up online and different other things that you're doing. So the platform is all yours, Steve.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks for inviting me tonight. And when you got in touch, I thought, I'll have a look at the weather forecaster. And I thought, I'll be doing something live. Forget that. Yeah. So, in the best traditions of Blue Peter, how do I share this? Come on, remind me.
Right, share button down the bottom. Yeah, so as you hover down the bottom there, and then select the screen or area that you want to share.
Yeah, here we go.
That's a green button as you mouse over.
Yeah. Not that one. That one, I think. So, this was last night.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
C11, ZW0178 colour, and the 2.5 power mate. And
cool.
At this stage, I got the mount to behave itself. As you know, Gary, the temperature has dropped slightly.
Yeah.
And the EQ6, I'm pushing it with the C11.
Yeah.
It was binding, and the
Yeah.
motor was stalling, so I had to get the tools out, and you know what it's like in the dark. And eventually I got it to run. So it's tracking quite nicely at this stage. And
Yeah.
I've also remembered to check the dew corrector plate, and cleared that off. And we got a half decent, what I thought, view of Mars.
Oh, yeah.
So
more than half decent.
See, there's some nice detail there, but I was just going to say on that, what you were saying about the corrector plate. People don't realise that, like here in the UK with the dew starts in about September and disappears in about July. So we have about 2 months without dew here. And if you're using, if you're using a C11, that is 2 dew heaters running at nearly max on the front end of that to stop the dew around the, your secondary. Yeah. And quite often with the dew shield on it and all of the other bits running, they don't realise what's involved with the slightly larger telescopes imaging from here. And the same if Andreas was doing the same there. The temperature changes are massive on this.
Well, I started off last night and the humidity level was about 88.
Yeah.
And when I come in, it was 97, 98. And as you said, with the dew shields and stuff like that, the balance just to pop, and you've just got to take everything into consideration.
Yeah, depending on what dew shield you got. If it gets breezy, then the dew shield's blown off at an angle, and you're back there on the front of it. And this is, they're all part and parcel. And the other big thing is if you take anything off, breathing anywhere near it, it's like if you take a bio off or a filter off, you've actually got to hold your breath here while you move it around in front of you before you put it back onto the telescope. Yeah.
And if you fiddle around the front with your hands, the heat from the hands, and you get the hairdryer out, and you can't see a damn thing for 10 minutes. We've got to cool down. Anyway, that's what I got with that. So following one of yours ideas, let's the screen again and go into already stacked.
Yeah.
First thing it's stacked in auto stack at 3.
Yeah.
80% of however many frames it was, quite a few. Just with it being a color camera and it being Mars and the rotation's not so critical, I'll tend to leave it to run a little bit better. So RGB balance, hit auto balance, boof.
We're not actually seeing that screen here, Steve. So
you're not?
No, you might have actually shared the application the last time rather than the main screen. So if you go back to screen share and click on it again, now go back to it, and then you'll be able to select screen 1, and then anything that comes up on there will come up on the live feed.
Is that it?
That's it. Yeah, I can see it now. There we go.
So I've hit auto balance, RGB align, show area, made it a bit bigger. Estimate. It'll chew through that relatively quickly, he says. I've got about 20 odd things running here on the background. And this is where the next bit is where the magic really happens for me. And it's down to you, Gary, basically, with the wavelets.
It's really funny with wavelets. I think I did an article for Sky at Night, probably must be about 4 or 5 years ago now. And it was around understanding the wavelets and trapping noise in the wavelets. There's so many adjustments on there. And I can remember, certainly with older cameras, we had to play with them a lot, to get the adjustments that we want. But now it's quite minimal to be honest. Cool. There you go. That's it.
Into Photoshop. Play with the colours balance.
Yeah.
Bit of
there's some really nice fine detail. I mean, even running through this system and screen sharing, and I also know that Registax is such an old program now that its display is quite poor. You can see a lot of errors displayed in Registax which don't come out in the final image. So you could adjust your wavelets to layer 3 and it looks like it's meshed across the top of the image. But they're not actually in the image. And if you process it, when you put it into Photoshop, they're fine. And that's looking really good on the screen here.
Looks great.
And then back to screen share. I'm doing it a long way around. Yeah. As I say, it's only a bit of color balance, despeckle in Photoshop.
You can see,
cropped it, and I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, you can see a lot of detail in it, you know, and the colors are really quite nice on there. They're quite balanced, you know. That's what we're looking at. You see the pole cap nice and clear and white, you know. So
Bit of cloud up at the north and on the limbs as well. Yeah, quite happy with that.
No, that looks nice. I'd be happy with that.
I did get 3 out of the load I did last night. I got 3 about this stage, about 1 a.m. local time. That one I've just shown, and that's the last one. That one's a bit blurred for some reason, but it's still decent stuff for around here.
Yeah. It's the UK.
It is. Right. Talking of which, UK.
Yeah.
This is the desperate solar astronomy you're talking to here. Another one.
Excellent. Yeah.
And on Thursday, it was supposed to be broken cloud through the afternoon. So, of course, being the forever an optimist, I'm an astronomer, for goodness sake. So I set the gear up when in a sunny spell, and of course it went cloudy, and I waited and fell for the sucker holes about 4 or 5 times. Big tip for all beginner astronomers: get yourself a big cover, because it rained as well.
Yeah.
You can just nip out, and if you've got a big cover, you can just slip it over the top of the top. If you get one of those nice tailored ones that are designed for that scope size, sometimes I struggle to put them on. So
well, you've also got to stop it tracking. If they're too tight, if they're a loose cover that just goes over the top.
Yeah,
I've actually
carry on going. Yeah.
One of the old tents that I had, it got damaged, but it had the cover that goes over the top, the astronomy tent.
Yeah.
And I've still got the cover from the top, and I just lay that over the top of the equipment. Rain comes along, you just pull it off, shake it off. Yeah, and you're still running, and normally you're on target as well.
And at star parties, I use a toilet tent as well as the trick. Set up once, basically, and just lever it off, put it on. So that was, and the coloured bit, like, you know.
What scope were you using for that? Looks like a lump.
It is a lump.
That was a good guess.
With the twist.
Yeah.
Because it's got a Coronado rich tune on the front as well for the double stack.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And a bit of more creative processing. And that pulled the nice prom out there. And the other day,
there's a nice filament over on the left there as well, just below that.
Yeah.
You can see that running right across to what we call a filler prom. So it's half on the edge and half on the surface.
Yeah.
That's quite nice.
When I used to do some stuff on Night Sky Network, I was talking to a guy. I was doing some live solar one afternoon. I was talking to a guy. I said, "Oh, that's what we call a Philly prom." And he went, "Well, I'm from Philadelphia." And I quite like this at the moment. One of the ways of bringing stuff out a little bit more is inverting it. And that is using, what's it called? Wait a minute. IMPPG.
Yeah.
And I use the curves in there to invert, and it's quite an easy process to whip it around and just to be able to bring that colour out. Of course, you can see the dust bunnies around the edge as well and all this. But is this Sol
Now then,
starting to pick up activity?
yeah, just on that little bit there, I'll stop you. Did you know that Daystar have introduced a new front-mounted flat panel? Yeah, to go
I did see it the other day. Yes.
Yeah, and basically you can put that on the front of the telescope now, and that is really for these full dish shots. This is to help towards this sort of stuff more than the close-up stuff.
Yeah,
and that looks quite interesting. I'd be really interested when they're stocked over here to try that out and just see what we can do with it, because the full dish shot has always been the problem, and generally it's in the center of the image, as you know. A lot of people think that the sun's a 2D object, so they can't understand why when we're imaging it, it's either really bright or really dark in the center, and it's because it's so much closer to us, so it's closer to the optics, and it's a brighter point, isn't it? So that's always been the issue, but you got some nice detail in that prom there.
Now, going back to still with the flats panel business, what I've done is somebody mentioned an idea of using an opaque plastic bag.
Waitrose.
I got mine from Lidl, actually. I went to the cheap.
According to the sources that be, Waitrose is the correct density. Of being opaque, and I'm only going on what I was told.
I was told it was a little one, you see.
A lot of playing around, so you need to shop at Waitrose, and get one of their bags. But I've heard the same thing.
What I've done is I've butchered up 2 plastic plant pots. And trapped the bag between the 2 plant pots, so it holds it in, so it doesn't flop around, and because there's always problems of sticking it over the end. And the plant pot makes a nice holder to go over the end. And if I was really tuned up for this, it would be to hand and be able to show you, but it's in the garage. So, and I'm not venturing out there now for another day, that one. And it does work 75% of the time. Not always for me, and I think it's down to operator error.
This is one of them ones where I remember doing one of the Daystar talks when I was out there. I think it was when Scott was there. It's quite a while back now. But this came up on one of the talks, and there was quite a few of us, and it can get quite mathematical to work this out for a full dish shot. It's not a dead straightforward thing. And that is because your difference of the surface and your dark background. So,
and also the vagaries of the echelons as well.
But I think the new, the new cameras
system, etc.
The new cameras help. The only thing is that manufacturers still keep making the front glass, magnetized to dust. And we notice, in the daytime when you're imaging, there's a lot more dust around. There's a lot more other particles in the air. So as soon as you get your camera out of the covers, then you've got the problem of removing the dust. And, you can go on and on and on trying to do that. I've got a certain model of camera here, which I'm not going to name, which when you actually bring it out of the box, it's like it's been in a fire bucket of sand. And it doesn't matter how many times I clean it. And somebody the other week said to me, if you had said, try one of these cameras, so I can't keep it clean at the moment. I said, I know, it's just, but you notice that more in the daytime solar imaging than what you do on any night imaging runs.
I think the method for cleaning a camera is get your air blower out, give it a blast, get your under fluid out or fluid of choice, give it a go, put it on. Oh, it's slightly better, but I still want to get that one off.
Yeah.
So you have another go, you make it worse, then you have another go, and it's a little bit better. And the fourth or fifth attempt, you think, stuff it, it's going back on.
Yeah. Do you know one of the best fluids for cleaning cameras and cleaning filters is your breath? It's distilled air.
Yeah.
Your breath is distilled air, so you're not actually putting any chemical on there.
No.
And it's the chemical that actually activates the static for the dust.
Right.
And this is the problem. So lenses are a little bit different. Lenses nearly always come up clean.
Yeah.
But what a lot of new people have got to be really careful of is some of these lens cleaners that come as wipes.
Oh dear, yeah.
I've actually seen them used on the front of a camera and take the anti-reflective coating straight off the front. Yet you would think it's safe because you use them on a camera lens.
Yeah.
You know, so you do have to be careful with some of this on the optics and the eyepieces and the other things of what you're cleaning them with. And sometimes gentle is really the way forward.
I know one or two guys who can take off the coatings just with their breath.
Yeah, I think I do as well. I think that's about it for me.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, thanks for sharing that, Steve.
Yeah,
thank you. Really
so it's thanks, Gary, for improving my images, my Mars images.
No, this is what it's all about, though, isn't it? You know, it's just trying other things. You know, I see other things come up. I see, you know, the new kid on the block trying a few things out, and you know, I look at what they're doing and I play around with them.
Yeah.
And some things it suits, and some things it doesn't.
I stopped using Registacks for years.
Yeah.
And myself and Damien said, you know, the wavelets in there, you know, I watched some of the YouTube vids and, you know, get yourself back in there, basically was the advice. It's old, it's walking on a Zimmer frame, this program, but it still works. And it in computer.
The only thing that lets it down is now we're moving with the screen technology. So now we've got like QHD and 4K screens, and that's its problem. So in a sense, that's where I have gone a little bit more to say PixInsight for the wavelets, or using another program that can just render a better image on the screen. Because your Mars, if you stick it on a 4K screen, looks like a pinhead. And then like you adjust your resolution up, and then you know it's looking all pixelated. When in real terms, it's not actually anything like that. It's just the way you are visually seeing it, or it's interpreted to you.
It's your kit that you're watching it on. Oh, by the way, that solar image was about 10 minutes above the local shed horizon.
Cool.
So I was, that's the desperate solar imager. Having seen the decent prom and the spot, thinking a spot, I'll get out and image it. Oh no, you won't.
Yeah, I've had that so many times over this last, solar minimum, where we've got a lack of details coming along. That's a real issue where, you know, something finally does come on, and then the weather goes, no, you're not going to see that until, and I haven't with this. I imaged it when it first came around the limb, and I imaged it yesterday as it's entering. So I've not got in close to it in the center. That gets really annoying then, certainly when it's a little bit larger than what we've been seeing over the last few months.
See, I've got myself a Bresser 127,
Yep.
acro to use with the Herschel wedge.
Yeah.
I've managed one session with it because it's actually a bit long, and if the weather's a bit iffy, I don't want to take it out because it's not mine yet.
The other thing as well is you know, like now the sun's low for us, so it's the equivalent, you know, it's going to be down in what Jupiter and Saturn have been for the last 2 years. It's right down on the horizon.
Yeah.
You know, here it won't clear the top of one of the houses. So I have to move the scopes around, you know, or play around a little bit.
Yeah.
Or be out just in the morning. But even when you do get there, it's not clear. You know, it's crumpled up a little bit and whatever else. But
I would blame musical mounts to clear the garage, the shed, the conservatory, the wall.
That's really interesting, that Steve. If you can do us a favour and stop sharing your
screen.
I
will. Sorry, forgotten.
No, that's all right.
There you go.
That's good. Because what I was going to do is, I'd already had this set up. I didn't know what you were going to show, but I imaged that large prominence yesterday. So I thought we'd have a quick run through how we join those two together, because taking the prominence and taking the surface shot, you do it 2 different exposures on most systems. Now, when it's a really nice day and it's really clear, you can do the 2 at the same time, but they're few and far between. So I thought what we would do on this side, and I'll just shrink this screen down a little bit. There we go, like that. And then I'm just going to come back to that because I've got to screen share it first. There we go. Okay, so I've already loaded this up. Now it looks small, and that I don't know what it actually looks like to you because I never see these screens. But anyway, this is the prominence yesterday captured for the extended side. So we've overexposed the surface. Yeah, and if we actually look at this, let me just run that there. This runs through the video. Now I've already analysed this once, and you can see it running around. You can see how much it's moving around. And this was done on an 85mm telescope. So it wasn't a big telescope at all. But what we're going to do is start off. Now, good guide to this. A lot of people say, how do you get the whole of the prominence in? You know, but what's the easiest way of not overexposing it too much? Because if you overexpose it, then the stacking software won't lock onto it. And the easiest thing is this chromosphere line here. If you adjust the exposure so that you just get the bottom of the chromosphere line, that means that this part of the image, will be exposed about right for what you need to do. So we find a good point. We move the top marker along somewhere around there. And then I'm just going to analyze it again. So I've got this set, surface, improved tracking, expanded, because otherwise it'll start cropping it in, and I might want that area when I join all of this together. And then we look down there, I've taken 2000 frames on it, so I'm going to stack a quarter and set this up at gradient and a noise robust of around 6, and then global on there. And then we just run that. Fairly fast on here. When we got the poor C in, this sort of monitor, the quality graph there, certainly when you're on a prominence, doesn't really stack up, if you're being dead honest. It's looking at the brightness of the image as it's running through, and we're on the prominence, so we know we're already overexposed. I use 104 for the alignment points, and then I place those on the grid. We're already on a good point there, so I don't need to adjust this. But if the quality graph come back and I was in a really low area, I'd probably move the slider along until I get into one of the higher points here, trying to help it as much as possible in the winter. File options, we're going to open it in Registax, send it straight through to there, so you just make sure you've got Registax open. And away we go. Just set it to stack. Fairly fast on this system. Might take a little bit longer on slower computers. And that's it. stacked, so we go through to registacks. And then just move this around a little bit. First thing is show full image, yeah, so that we get an idea of what's going on in the image. And this is what I'm on about by the pixelation. So I don't know whether that's showing up on your screens, but I'm using a 4K screen here, so it is showing up to me. Set the wavelets to 2, double tap on the actual prominence itself, so it selects that as your visual reference. And then we're just going to run this along a little way. I'm not going to go too far, somewhere around 30 to start with. Too much, so we're going to go back. Somewhere around there.
Oh, wow.
And then what we're going to do is just help it a little bit with the histogram at this point. It's easier to help the prominence now than it is in Photoshop. So just going to drag this along a little bit, just till it just brightens it a little touch. And that's going to bring out this top area. Click the do all button. Yeah, and then we're going to save the image. Yeah, and I'm actually going to, I'm going to save it there. I'm just going to change the name on this because I might have another one saved in there. So I'm going to save that. And then we're just going to go back to here. And we're going to grab the corresponding surface image and drop that in. So same thing again. Control and click, you can bring your box over to the center, and then we're just going to run along nice and gentle and try and pick one of the nicer frames, somewhere around there, analyze it. So this is going to give us our 2 halves, and the image roughly on the histogram bar would be about 70 for the surface. That would give me a nice surface with plenty of detail in it, hopefully. Place your APs on the grid again. You can use all of the same settings that we just used before. The only thing that you need to keep an eye on is your amount of frames. Yeah, if you've taken less frames, then you're going to stack a smaller percentage. And then we stack. Okay, so back to registacks again. And here you'll see that we are a little bit worse off for where with the surface. It's still usable, but it's not going to be as sharp. So what I'm going to do for the surface is I'm going to come down to layer 1. We're just going to raise it up a little bit. Somewhere around there would do. What you're looking at is not introducing noise. Yeah, so we're going initial layer 1 for this. And we click do all. There we go, and then we save it. Exactly the same thing again, just going to take a couple of digits off here so I know which ones, and then we save it. Always leave these open, never just close them down. If you close them down, you might well need them. Sorry, my toolbox is getting in the way. There we go. And then we're going to go to here. I'm going to open this up, and then we're going to send this over to Photoshop. Can do this in other software. There we go, and then we're just going to expand it up a little bit, just so that I can see what's going on. Bit too much. Come back down. There we go. And then we need to open up the surface shot. So there we go. Okay, so exactly the same thing. What we need to do now is crop the stack lines off the edge. That's the first thing to do. So I can remove the stack lines there. And then what we need to do is mark underneath the chromosphere line. And that's easier said than done. It depends. I always find it easier with a mouse. If you're using a trackpad, you can get all sorts of shapes in it. So it doesn't overly matter there that I've missed the stack lines. We'll grab them back out. But you need to do this in short lengths. If you go too long with this, you'll end up with this looking all pointy and not smooth. You can use the magic wand on this, but depending on the brightness of the image is dependent on how well it grips to the darker contrasted line there. So I generally always do these manual, just take a little bit of time with them. Other bits are faster in the processing. This area, we just want to be a little bit more gentle. We're only doing this really rough for demonstration here. So if I was doing this on the other computer, I would be a lot more precise. So what I'm going to do here is just come in underneath that and take that back out, because we would have removed it anyway. So we've got it selected. I'm going to copy it. And then we're going to go. I'll ask you to copy then. Then we're going to go over to our prominence image. We're going to paste it. We're moving around all over the place today for some reason. Hang on there. Hang on 2 seconds. Because as I go up to the top here, I keep clipping the actual controls for Skype. So let me just go back to that other box.
Okay, already.
Right, try again. Cool. So we've pasted it in. Going to move it up to the edge here. You can use your arrow keys for this, just to put it into a rough position. What you're looking is for even spacing down here. Yeah, so that if I move this right over where it is now, you're going to be close in the center. Up at the top edge there, you're out a little bit further. So you're looking for a nice even spacing here. I start there, and we're just going to crop that back out on the edges here. Cool. Now with the surface, because it's quite bland and it's moving into winter, it's not the sharpest of images. Yeah, we can sharpen up a little bit more by inverting it. It's each person's choice at this point, whether they keep it as the normal surface or inverted. So if we're going to invert it, yeah, what we need to do is go to shadows and highlights. You go into shadows and highlights to lighten up the underneath of the chromosphere line where we took it off of the other image. But you can, if this area is a little bit light, if you've got different optical issues, you can use the highlights at the bottom there to just darken that back side. You'll see it darkening. Yeah, if I adjust the shadows amount, take it back, you'll see it's darkening the limb. Well, if we're inverting, we need this fairly even. Otherwise, you're going to get a massive white area come down this side when we join them together. So we've done the shadows and highlights. You can always go back on this if there's a bit of a problem. And then what we're going to do is go to invert. And then we're going to adjust the contrast a little bit, or the levels, whichever way you want to do it. Just going to bring it back a little bit so it brings out a bit of detail. Okay. And then we're going to go to cool. So what we can do now is start to add some color to it. It's quite straightforward. Yeah, bring these up to 8-bit images, put them into grayscale. Don't flatten the image, so you leave the two separate. Yeah, and then we're going to go into duotone. I've got my colors already preset in here. But to add the colors, yeah, if you just click on each one. Now I run this as tritone, so that you've got black in here for contrast. Yeah. If you do duotone, yeah, you're only going to have 2 colors, and then you'll find a problem with the background. So I run a tritone, and then I use true match colors. But the world's your oyster at this point. You can have it purple, pink. True Hydra and Alpha's pink. Nobody likes pink images. And then we go over to RGB color. Yeah, same again. Don't flatten the image. So what we're going to do, I always start on the prominence first to make sure that's selected. Yeah, and then I'm going to go to color balance. And I'm just gradually going to bring in a little bit of color at a time. Then we're going to do exactly the same on all of these. Just little bits so that you get it the right shade that you like. It's not really, at this point, what's perfect, because it's false color. In actual fact, blue works really good, blue and white on this for showing out detail. But again, a lot of people don't like it and think it's wrong, and it's not wrong. It's really what you use to define the detail that's there.
That's right. It's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
Because all colors are there.
This is a false color image. You know, it's shot with a mono camera to get the detail, you know, over a color camera. So we're just making it artistically look nice. That's the key thing. So we could go somewhere around here. Then what I'm going to do is adjust contrast, and I use legacy mode just because it gives me a deeper color in it. Okay, and then we're going to go to the prominence, do exactly the same thing. Now what I want to do, what I'm aiming for here, is to leave the detail in the prominence, but get the background a little bit blacker. So by a couple of playing around, we're somewhere around there. Can add a little bit of brightness to it at this point. Just what you're after is just keeping the tips in here. They're very faint, yeah, because of our weather here yesterday. And then we can go to selective color. Yeah, and go to the blacks. And you can just pull it back a little bit there. Okay. So now we're ready to join it, and everybody's different on this. I personally hate it when it's really bright at the edge of the prominences and the edge of the surface. So I actually select the background and move it over. Yeah, just go to the select tool, and then I adjust it right in to where I want it. Somewhere there. Again, go back to your crop tool, mark it out, get rid of the lines that are there. And while it's still in its two separate halves, just before you start to join them all together, I actually sharpen at this point. So first thing to do on each layer is despeckle it, because you have stack markings in there, oh sorry, wavelet markings. And then just go into a unsharp mask, you know, whatever other tool you want. You know, it's totally up to you. We use that, looks quite nice. And then we go exactly the same to the prominence. And then we're going to, same again, despeckle it. And then we're just going to go unsharp mask. Yeah, you can see what's going on there.
Yeah.
It's live preview when you do this. So if you're not sure on something, stamp on the box, yeah, and it'll move it around in the area. But you'll see if I really adjust this right up now, you'll see the main image adjusting. If you go too far, you're going to destroy all of the work that you're doing down here. So you might think that it looks nice, but it doesn't. You know, so you've really got to be gentle with the amount that you do these sliders. So we were down around 2.1, somewhere around there. Just a little bit more on it. There we go. Now we're ready to flatten the image, so you can flatten the image back. That's the two halves joined together. Still a little touch on that, so I'm just going to go back in the history. Yeah, go back to the unsharp mask. Yeah, I'm just going to do that again. There's just a little bit of darkness coming through there that I didn't see. So go to the sharpen and just go in at a bit less this time. Yeah, so I'll bring that down to about 70, somewhere around there. And what you can do is if they still stay in there, you can sharpen it manually on the prominence. It's not an issue. Just using this as a guide anyway. So flatten this back and then get your blur tool. Yeah. So you might want to come in a bit closer on the image before you do that. So zoom in a little bit. And what we're going to do, we're going to blur out the join line. Again, trying to be steady with this and not kill your prominences at the same time. Yeah.
Going to touch up those little tips there.
Yeah, that's it. So you just, and you can turn the harshness down on this. I'm just being a little bit rough now. I'd be a lot smoother than this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we're just using this for demonstration.
Right. It looks quite natural though.
Yeah, and then we resize it back. Yeah, so double hit the hand sight. And then we can contrast that a little bit more if we want now as a whole image. So just go in there, go to contrast, legacy. And we can use that as a rough example. The actual image that I did yesterday was, just needs to come out of this box, in there.
Wow.
And if we open that in Photoshop, there you go. That was the image yesterday. So, you know, with playing around with it, you can see we've got slightly nicer colors in that image along the connection line. And we might be a little bit dimmer on the top, but we've got a lot more structural detail in there. There you go.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thanks for that, Gary.
It's right. It's just different ways of doing it. There's 101 ways. Yeah, you know, it's just, and every image I look at is different, and I process different, I attack it differently. And you can see the differences there if you don't do the color right. So the main difference is I'm working on a 4K monitor, and when I process my stuff, I'm on a QHD monitor that's color calibrated. Yeah, so it's an what we call an RGB monitor. So my colors are a lot nicer, and I can see them exact as they're going on. Whereas when you do them on these screens, they're, and that goes for all images, your colors are a lot different. So you can add a red in, and we're imaging in red, yeah, because it's hydrogen alpha. So the more red you add in, the more detail you lose. Whereas if you add in another color, and this is why you don't just automatically attach red, yeah, because you'd think like, well, we're going to have it nearly red. It's orange, you know, red. It's somewhere in there. But as soon as you attach it, you're removing detail because we imaged in a red filter. So you've got to bring that in really gently, yeah, and just keep an eye on it. And I proved this the other week. We had 4 screens side by side, and we put the same image on the 4 screens. And on 3 of the screens, it looked wrecked, the image. You know, I wouldn't post it. But yet, when you actually move it onto the color calibrated screen, it looked perfect. So it was perfect, but it's the screen showing us that it's not right.
I've got 2 screens running here, one above the other. Same brand, same kind.
Yeah,
completely different.
That is the problem. And you know, we spend a lot of money on this equipment to do imaging, you know, us astrophotographers, whatever imaging we do. And one of the best things you can do is buy an RGB monitor. So it's calibrated and specified that it shows the RGB colors. And it's, you know, yeah, same with the spiders and the other calibrators. But when you do those, it will get them close. But if the monitor's not a specified monitor in a sense, then the colors are out on it and it's not uniform. So they do cost you a little bit more. You know, in the UK, one of those is probably going to cost you around the £400 mark. But when you compare that to the price of all your other equipment, it's money well spent.
That's true. That's true.
The other thing we tend to forget about, I think, is ambient lighting as well.
Yeah.
I've got a window at the back of the screen. I've got lights going on and off behind me, as you can see, and it does make a difference.
Yeah, well, see that the calibrator that you held up normally will manage the screen brightness around what the ambient light is in the room. And a lot of people, just because they're comfortable, they turn their laptop up or their main screen up to quite a bright setting. So that means when you post your image to a website or online, your image is too dark. And when your screen is too dark, your image is going to be too light because you're brightening the image to try and see it on a dark screen. And that's the key to this.
And when you're capturing it, it looks bright on the screen, but it isn't. And you've got to watch your histograms, not just the screen, as we know.
The histogram is a very important part. I would say more so on planetary and lunar and solar than deep sky. Really, at the end of the day, you set a timing up for your deep sky stuff, so it's not so important. But an accurate histogram in software, in actual fact, in this day and age, is very hard to achieve. It seems for some manufacturers. So, you know, we get their proprietary software come along, and the histogram, you might as well just get a torch, you know, and shine it along the bottom of your screen, because that's how accurate it is. And they don't understand that it's a really, really important part. And, you know, I don't just push software or use software for no reason. One of the reasons why I use SharpCam for planetary is the histogram is so accurate. Same with fire capture. The histogram is really accurate. But if you use some of this other software, and I did this the other week, brand new camera in, hooked it up, put it on the moon, set the histogram in their software at about 70, somewhere around there for a one-shot color, and all the images were really dull. You could just about see them. And it's sort of saying, well, you know, you don't really understand the products that you're making the software for and how people are using it then.
But they are making it for a different thing, what the chips are to start with.
But you know, they're a big company. They're Red Cameras, you know, and they've been supplying them for a long, long time, and they should be well aware. You know, it's your own software that you're designing, you know, and you should be well aware of how important that is. But that's really as important as having a USB lead to the camera. You know, it's because if your images are too dark in capture, you're not going to recover them. And if they're overexposed, you're not going to recover them. So if we've now worked out that all of our screens vary, every screen, every computer is different, we have to have some definition there that says that you are correct no matter what you're seeing. It might look a little bit bright or a little bit dark, but I am absolutely correct on that. And if you don't get that right, that's your waste of your imaging session, and you know it's the last thing you need.
When we're doing our deep sky, if you overexpose it, you never recover that, either. You know,
I mean, you can in PixInsight, depending on the damage.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there are HDR tools in there that you can use with a mask. So M42, you know, the trapezium, that's a favorite to overexpose, and the center of Andromeda, is very easy to overexpose, and most of those you can recover back using it. Right. But it's not as easy on, you know, some of the planetary stuff to get in there because your image is not big enough. You know, your Mars image in real terms, you know, is very, very tiny. Yeah, it's really small. I can always remember entering a competition years ago and the people saying, oh, you know, we need this in a size X size by that size. And you're thinking like, you know, this came off of a 640 by 480 camera. all the upscaling in the world is not going to make this, you know, a huge image that you can print up on a big screen. And, you know, things have changed now, you know, but the new cameras that are coming out, 640 by 480 ROI, you'll get away with printing those out because they're high bit rate cameras, you know.
And the pixels are smaller nowadays.
Right? I think it's really enjoyable this time at the moment. We're seeing all this new stuff come out. You know, we've had the rough days, you know, with the older stuff and what I call the pioneering days with some of the cameras. You know, and seeing what's coming out now is really, really nice.
I used to UCam down to Office World to take the webcam apart.
Yep.
Remember doing that when I was sticking an 35mm film container on the front so it would fit in the drop tube.
That's it.
Yeah.
I can remember going around Tesco's probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and they were doing an offer on their budget, you know, basics webcam, and I had a webcam on the shelf there for £7. And I just turned to my mate who was there and I said, we're going to have one of those and we're going to get an image out of it just for the fun of it. Yeah. And we did. So took it back, took the little lens out the inside of this webcam. And the only thing I didn't know at the time was it would only work with their own software. Yeah, so you couldn't get this to, but we still managed to get some shots of the sun with it. And it was just to say, look, £7. 7 years ago, you know, cameras were really expensive 7 years ago to what they are now.
That's true.
You can go out and buy a basic planetary camera for, you know, around £100, and it will give you quite a good image. And we know that because all of the images, me, you know, Christopher Go, Damon Peach, all of those people have used these years ago when they were new, you know, so we know they work.
That's right.
My slot expanded for quite a lot. I'll mute myself now. Somebody else have a go.
Cool. So what's in the sights of the microscope?
The sights of the microscope. Well, you know, I always put tardigrades in there, and why I do that is because I just think they're so cute and they're so interesting, you know, and you can see their little paws and they're eating away and stuff, and they're like me, they're vegetarians. So, you know, but I learned today that there has been a new species of tardigrade found. I don't have them in here, but you know, they talk about how they can survive the vacuum of space, they can survive, you know, boiling water, you know, ice, being dried out for years, all these things. Well, the newest thing that they can survive, at least this one species, and I don't know if I can pronounce it correctly, but it's called, let's see, it is called Paramacrobiotus genus, okay? And this tardigrade can survive many times the lethal dose of UV radiation, okay, over all kinds of other animals. So things that kill viruses and bacteria and lots of other tardigrades, this particular kind of tardigrade can survive. But my tardigrades right now, and I'm not sure what kind I actually have, are doing quite well. And you can see that they're very busy eating away in their little garden in this tiny drop of water in my microscope. So,
Cool.
but I love to watch them. You can see the little eyes over here, and you know, they are some of the hardiest animals on the planet.
That's a pretty good microscope you've got there.
It's not bad.
It's all right. Yeah, it's
not bad. This is a, and there are other things in here as well that I wish I could identify, but for me, when it's cloudy outside, to look through a microscope is just to explore the universe in another way.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it you know, this is just really the sort of things that's overlooked, you know, as we just walk around our everyday life. You know, there's plenty of other life occurring, and
it's everywhere,
and in its own world, if you know what I mean. It's like right. You know, it's in its own world and got no interest in us, really, you know.
It probably doesn't even realize we're here, you know.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, but, you know, this is, you can see, I guess, maybe some food through its body, and they're somewhat translucent in this view, and there's quite a lot of them. Let me see if I can pull over to a different area of the slide. And this view, I mean, this drop of water is literally about 10 millimeters wide. So
yeah.
This is, It's quite small. Oh, you can see this one. He's just tearing away at eating this moss that they're in. You can find tardigrades. They're found all over the world, and there's thousands of species of them. And the new article about the new species of water bears, what they're also called, uses a fluorescent shield to survive lethal UV radiation. It said that when they found that they weren't killing them with a certain dose, they upped the dose 4 times, 400% more, and they started to glow. And so it uses a fluorescent shield to protect itself. Really remarkable, really amazing.
That will be on our new safety equipment in about 15 years' time when we work out what the compounds are.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
So how are you getting on with this remote telescope? I know you've been doing lots of work on this, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm done working on it at this point. Let's see. Let me stop sharing my screen. You can see it behind me. I guess I could bring it around. Let me do that. I tested it last night. I just wanted to check the flat field adapter on it, and it seems to be, everything seems to be okay. And I put it on wheels so I can drag it in and out.
That makes life so much easier, doesn't it?
I think so. I started paying attention to guys like Chuck Ayub and Chandler and several other people that would just drag their telescope in and out of their driveway, you know.
The thing is, you know, in the real world, it doesn't matter how heavy a mount is. It's not an awkward thing to pick up when it's all together. It needs dismantling.
Right.
You know, and that is to look after your telescope, your focuser, your, you know, whatever, even your bearings on the mount itself. Yeah, when you're picking it up. So it just does make sense, you know, and if you've got a little bit of a rocky area, you just put bigger wheels that are, you know, got air in them, you know, something like that. It just makes
wheels, yeah.
So the newest thing that I've got on this was just added on today, is a custom made. This little box right here, this is the PMC8, but this little box down here shows my battery draw, and it's very accurate and shows how much battery life I actually have left. So yeah. I have a 12 volt, 20 amp LiFePO, you know, there's a lithium iron battery that's running most of it. And then on the other side over here, which you can't see, is a 20 volt battery that runs this PC right here, and the PC is running all the imaging software, all the you know, the Sky software and everything. On the back of the scope, I've got a QHY 163 color camera. This is a field flattener here. I have an Optec electric focuser back here, and then back up here you can see the electric focuser itself. This is our attempt at cable management on it, and then we've got a little auto guider here. So this is an ED80 riding up on top of a 102, and you can see the whole scope and everything. This is all riding on a G11 mount. So it's ready, pretty much ready for us to take it out. You know, once I get clear skies, because you know, everybody knows that when you build a new telescope or you get new gear, it gets cloudy.
Yeah,
it's the law.
Right? So I did have a clear night last night, and I was playing around with it and just checking focus on it. And I've already gone through a process of doing the polar alignment, a drift alignment, marking my points out on the concrete out there, so I can just roll it out,
Yeah.
turn it on, go, so.
Because the thing is with the polar alignment, being dead honest, if you're only doing an hour or two, the polar alignment can be more or less right. It doesn't need to be absolutely bang on.
That's right.
And if you're not going to flip on the meridian, it doesn't need to be so absolutely bang on.
Mhm.
And this is what a lot of people spend so much time doing. And Andreas, you know more about this. I know that you can't see the pole star.
Right.
So
That's
Yeah, I use a lot. I use drift alignment all the time to get perfect polar alignment. I think every night I try to push like 30 or less what you call pixels or something in PhD. I try to be exact as I could to obtain very good guiding. That's my goal, I think.
Yeah, but it is one of those things that I think people waste a lot of time on. Do you know what I mean? They really do. They get hung up on some of these things in this.
I have my markings on the now outside, so I only have to lift it out my equipment, put it on the right spot. I take a measurement with and then I pretty much spot on, so I don't have to fiddle with anything. So I know where to point everything. So small changes every time I go out. So this is very convenient to have everything written down.
That's
Also
right.
where to put my mount.
The most important things on these is getting them level, and that is really more critical than an absolute perfect polar alignment, because that equals an evening with a reasonable run or a really bad run. And if the mount's not level, it's really hard to find if you're quite new in this. It's not the first thing you're going to look at. Or somebody might have leveled it on the spreader plate. And the spreader plate, depending on what way it grips onto the tripod, could be unlevel.
Oh, sure.
It's not a fixed component.
No.
But for a new person, that looks like a flat surface. And certainly if it's somewhere that holds eyepieces, that's a really flat surface. So, the level goes on there, and then, it's a downhill thing, because if you're doing a star alignment on, certain models, then you're going to have the issue that none of the stars are going to come in the field of view, and you're starting to adjust things and move things around. And it all starts from those little basic steps right at the beginning of setting the equipment up and getting into it.
Right.
And that is really, really important on this stuff, is to make sure that it's level. As Andreas, you were saying, you use the cushion pads underneath it, the vibration pads. They move around with the amount of weight or the temperature. So if you get a warm day, they move down a lot further than what they would on a cold day. The plastic and the rubber in them is more rigid. So you might find that, you got it all set on your markers, but your actual level's still running out. And bubble levels, I can tell you, I've seen mounts that are 5,000 or 6,000 pounds, and those bubble levels are the equivalent of a mount that, a tripod that's 50 pounds. That they can vary in temperature, they can vary in everything else. So it's not a manufacturer thing, it's just a design thing of the way a bubble level works. And also sometimes, there's just a little touch too much glue pushed in, depending on how they're mounted, and it's out, and that's it. So it is one of the things to, use a cheap builder's level, a small little, what we call boat level, one of those things on there. And, you're saving yourself so much work in that early part of setting everything up.
I'm curious, Gary, had you have taken the route of being very super careful about your polar alignments, how much less astrophotography do you think you would have gotten done?
I actually looked at this with a few other people. We used to do group meetings, and there were a couple of people there who were a little bit more blasé over the alignment, you know, the polar alignment, and they were still getting pretty good images. And you know, you were sort of looking at it, you're thinking, well, yeah, in a sense, they're only imaging for 2 or 3 hours, but maybe they're on 2 or 3 targets. They're not on that one target for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And I think, you know, the difference is when we've got a pier or a more permanent setup, you do tend to image a lot longer, because generally that pier means that you've got somewhere warm to sit.
Yes.
And that's the difference. That is the big difference, I would say, over the last 5 years, is that, you know, your mini PC there, you know, my Eagle, the ZWO system, whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is, it's allowing you now to do this from the comfort of your armchair.
Oh yeah, from my office or from anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and that is the big difference. So if you are set up with a more permanent, and bearing in mind, you know, even 5 years ago, to start setting this stuff up in an observatory was expensive.
Yes,
just the observatory on its own, you know,
prohibitive for many people.
Was prohibitive, and that means then that you were out there with the frost, with the cold, with the freezing cold feet, the hands, you know, with the gloves on that don't work anything, so you got to take them off each time that you touch the screen or you touch, you know, the buttons or the mouse pad. I think that's one of the other massive changes in this industry over the last 4 or 5 years. And more so, I'd probably say in the last 2 years, we've seen a massive elevation in that. And that means now, in a sense, you're going to image longer. You're more comfortable. You're going to go for the 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning just because you're not out there. Whereas midwinter, you know, it's dark here at sort of 4:30, 5 o'clock, properly dark. And it'll be dark through till, you know, 7 o'clock in the morning, something like that, if we get in the depths of December and January. So there is no way you're going to stay outside for that long. Absolutely no way. You're going to give it about 2 hours at the top. So I think now maybe a little bit more, we need to be a little bit more precise on some of these things. But then the advent of Polemaster, Sharp Cap, all of these other things are making it so easy that it's not such a bind. And I know from Andreas's point of view, you can't see the pole styles, so some of these things are out of use in a sense. But I think it will come along where, you know, Sharp Cap or other things actually make this available. And to be honest, I've been quite an advocate of polar lining on the handsets. It works quite well on most of these mounts for a good imaging run. Celestron's had it on them for years. I've used their system for years, quite straightforward, 2-star alignment, a few calibration stars, and then you go into the polar alignment. But that polar alignment will work on any of the bright stars in its chart. You just select it. The Skywatcher systems come along very similar now over the last few years. You're starting to see it on, you know, a multitude of mounts. And if it doesn't need to see the pole star, that means that it's a bonus, because if you've got a place like Andreas, or you've got a house there or trees there and you can't see it, one of the other camera operated systems, this doesn't need it. It does it off the handset.
I use the star sense to find my plate solving, and this system can always be used to use the polar alignment as well. So it's a very handy system, but it's very neat to get quick up and alignment to the sky and to find my targets. So they're very convenient.
It's you know, this is really what it's about, is that change in technology now, isn't it, that's allowing us to do all of these different things right the way through. And really, at the end of the day, all you need is somebody to actually set it all up for you, or it to be in the observatory, and you got a result, because you wouldn't have to move out of your armchair to do most of this stuff now. I mean, from my point of view, I've got a couple of observatories here. So I've got like the Solar Observatory, we've got the Deep Sky Observatory, and then we might have stuff out on one of the platforms here if we're working on stuff locally. But with the permanent setup, even though it's changed all the time depending on what's coming in, I can have the roof open and that imaging within 5 minutes. You know, and that's the big difference. And I think now, you know, this is what a lot of people are starting to see, that the setup of this equipment and the way the computers hold the positions of the mounts is really accurate now. You know, go back a few years, you put a scope in park, and if you didn't spend, you know, sort of £6,000 or £7,000 on the mount, there was no way that was waking up and going to the correct position from the night before. It would be, you'd have to be out there and re-star align it and reset it and everything else. So now, you know, these mounts are waking up from park. They know exactly where they were the night before. They've all got GPS on them and all of these other gadgets.
Sure.
But that does mean it's less of a setup time for certain things of this, but there's still the little golden rules there, going back to the level and, you know, other things that you've still got to follow.
I have a home sense system. If something goes wrong, if I trip a cable, and then it has a home sense, so it can find itself, so I can plug it in the CDX mount.
Yeah.
It's it's a belt drive. I also used a AVX drive before that, but this was not accurate enough, because I had used it a couple of times, and then the gears fell out, and I learned how to hypertune the AVX rig. I pull everything apart, and I got very accurate guiding when I put it all together. So I learned how the mount worked. So this is a learning experience when I do stuff.
I think the only thing that's letting some of the mounts down at the moment is still the encoders. There seems to be a few issues with mounts with encoders on. The general ones without encoders, even though they still find their home positions. So at the moment, I've got a Optron one here on test, and that it just flies back to home. So if there is an error on something, you just tell it to go and find its 0 position, and away it goes. And then off you go again, back off to your target. So it makes life easy. The encoder systems, I still think there's a little bits there that need to be improved on. Is the easiest way around it. And I do ask myself, do you really need the encoders on there? It's more for visual people, you know. If you knock in the system, it knows where it is and things like that. But to be that precise for imaging is a little bit of a different kettle of fish, and depending on what way you're controlling it, you can find it puts a few of the planetariums off. Using the encoders, certainly on some makes and mounts, sends a different code through to the planetarium. So you look at the planetarium says, oh, you've got a big drift here. Well, you know it's perfectly aligned, and you know that it's been tracking on the last target, but it's actually moved on the planetarium, not on the target. And yet when you switch the encoders off, you don't get these problems, you know. So there are things there that I do look at and sort of say, do we need this, or we're getting these new mounts like one here that's got the guide system already built in, and that's got its problems. So it's got a guide camera built into the head of the mount. In principle, a really, really good idea, but the same as a new model car, never buy the first one. You know, there's room for improvement. So it does work very well, but it gets its issues when you get a little bit of high cloud come through, or, you know, something like that. And it is such a tiny guide scope on it, you know, so it's okay, but I think you'd be better off with a version in a year's time when all of the little bits have been ironed out of it, and maybe a better camera, that sort of thing in it. But the principle of the idea is good, because you keep your weight down. You know, the less equipment you got up top there, the nicer it is. Yeah, and it's an easier guide, it's an easier setup, it's one imaging rig less. There's lots of positives in.
I think from 1 or 2 years, there's a program called PWCI to all telescopes that are developed from Celestron and PlaneWave. And you can automate everything without.
It is absolutely brilliant, that piece of software. I have to say that. It's very rare that a large manufacturer actually comes up with a good piece of software. And that's normally because not only budget constraints, but there's normally a lot of people in the food chain of development, and ideas get walked over and bits get moved around and they get taken out. So the software normally needs a little bit of development, and it takes a couple of years to get that moving. But I have to say, PWI for Celestron is one of the best planetarium pieces of software I've ever seen come out for a mount. And they brought that out for their 2 top-end mounts about 2-3 years ago. And they've only done a few updates to it, a few development things, and changed the interface a bit. But to give you some idea, we did the polar aligning on the handset here. So we did the star alignment, did the polar aligning, shot it down, and then did that again, just to make sure that it was absolutely perfect. And then we went over to the PWI software and did the pointing model. So we did the alignment through the PWI software and went to the different stars, added in probably about 10 stars just to build the pointing model, and then saved it. And you know, we used the same pointing model for 6 months.
Wow.
We didn't adjust anything. All we did was open the roof, switch it on, and tell it to go to the next object. And for a mount that was like £3,500 for their top end one there, to get that pointing accuracy in the what I call sub £4,000, any mount that can do that sort of thing for under £4,000 is really, really good. But then you were setting this thing up in seconds. You'd have all of your stuff on there. The only thing you'd have to check is your focus.
Right.
Because of a temperature change, it's like bang, away you're imaging. Right. And then they opened it up to run on any of their mounts. I have to say, I haven't tried it on the others. I've tried it on the 2 CGX top end ones. But brilliant piece of software. If only other manufacturers would look at that and just see some of the things that are in it and go, we're not going to have all of this in there, but those little niceties that work really, really well. But that thing of switching it on and just it knows exactly where it is and what it's doing night after night is a dream. That is an amateur astronomer's heaven. Is to get that out of a mount, I think. Right.
Well, it's been an interesting night, Gary.
Yeah.
As usual.
Very good. Some interesting people on tonight.
Interesting people. We're down to the last few here, but does anybody? I mean, my tardigrades don't really have a lot to say, but
We want to go
does anybody have any final comments? Any last things they want to share?
The floor's open to everybody.
Can you develop a cloud gun, please?
I was describing to the people on chat what it was like to hand guide, at the eyepiece with the, and now there's people who want to try it.
Oh.
They want to do it.
No, not now.
No.
I'm too old for that now.
That is the thing now. I think we don't realise how easy it is with any of these computerized mounts. We moan, about a few bits not working or maybe need a little bit more development, but we really do forget how easy it is. That's the main development tool.
What it allowed people to do is to now concentrate on image processing and manage these files and stuff, where before it was this gargantuan effort just to get data, So now the data collection is relatively easy, and you can spend all that energy and effort towards learning
Yeah.
insight to the level that you know it, Gary. So,
and there's a lot more interesting targets being imaged by amateurs. A lot more interesting.
very true. Very true.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's
these
always
are out
some
of the
new nebula that somebody's imaging, like
yeah.
the
And like Wayne spending all of that time on the North American Nebula.
Right.
For amateurs to do that, it was more or less impossible, 10 years ago, just because of the quality of the mount. Engineering has come a massively long way.
But also, too, the ability to skip through images that have, a satellite or a plane flying through it,
Yeah.
or a little cloud drifting by, to skip through that and still image, to be able to share basically an original file with someone, without having, I mean, before you'd have to give up your negative. Now you can,
Yeah.
you're sharing basically original data every time. The archivalness of it, the ability to do science with it. There's just so many positive aspects of digital imaging. It really has changed astronomy for the better,
and the
I think.
quality of even the cheaper optics. The
Very
quality of that for visual. Now you can get a relatively cheap telescope, and you can have some stunning views through it.
Yes.
So it's not just all about the imager. It covers all compartments. This progression, sort of moving along, and that's really where I think it's going to progress more. It's going to be made easier. I mean, there was one of the new telescopes out, or sort of over here, or banded around, where it's this fully portable thing with a camera in it that you literally put on the floor, and it sets itself off, and it goes off, and it's quite expensive. It's just £5,000 somewhere around there, and I'm looking at it and thinking it's too integrated now. It's going to be outdated within. It's like a phone or an iPad. Yeah, it's out of date the moment that you bought it off the shelf, because the new model was being designed.
Right.
So there are points where I think you can go a little bit too far with it, and you could get yourself locked in. But from an ease point of view, I mean, wow, you can drop this thing on the floor and it literally, it's like a robot. But does that take the fun out of it? I think that's where it goes, is the actual chase, the fun, what we were on about earlier,
Right.
that sort of disappears.
Yeah. Well, there are telescopes that are being made that do all this automatic stuff, and literally you can just throw it down and it can get images, and that's fascinating. My own take on it. Now, all of us that have grown up into this astronomy lifestyle that we have, we know something about the sky from what we've done.
Yeah.
And we know something about how the equipment really works, and we know something about how the imaging process is done. And if you're just capturing images on your iPhone, it would be fascinating and fun for a while, but once you've kind of exhausted what that can do, then you're, you have to move on.
I really do think that's the thing. As David was saying right earlier on, when we asked about how you find comets, you're memorizing some of that area.
Yeah, one field at a time, so that's right. And David knows the sky like the back of his hand. He really does.
That's it. And that's experience, and there are things that you're not learning through, these handsets. I mean, even with an average automated system or semi-automated system, a person still has to know the sort of 10 or 15 brightest stars in the sky. Now, if you get those 10 or 15 brightest stars, and they've been doing that for 6 months, and they turn up at their first star party, those 10 or 15 stars don't exist anymore. They are in an oblivion of, a million bright stars there.
That's right.
And we've actually done that. We've seen that. We've been in those light polluted areas, and then we've gone out somewhere, and it's like, wow, You know, it's chalk and cheese. What's there? And then that makes the hunt even more interesting when you look at these star fields.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I can
and then
hardly
I
wait
look
to
at
get back
like,
out. I can hardly wait to get back out in skies like that. So
yeah, I mean, I look at like what Jerry does, you know, and you maybe go to like that M27 we had up live on one of the last star parties, and you know, you got a couple of 100,000 stars in the image there, and you're thinking, well, there's the chance of there being a planet or two or whatever around each star in that shot. You know, that's the you know, the reality of where we're sort of moving now, you know, with exoplanets and with all of the other discoveries that we're sort of going. So it does make me wish that I'd be around in sort of 300 years time just to see what we'd worked out then.
But it's going to work out. That's true.
Yeah, how many of these planets we're actually going to discover, and whether we actually work towards, you know, meeting up somewhere in the middle, you know, in somewhere or another.
Yes. I
Scott,
know.
can I ask you what that scope is behind the globe? That little one.
This is this scope here.
Yeah.
This is the most important telescope in all my collection right here. This is the telescope that my parents gave me when I was 10 years old. And this is what got me started in astronomy. In 1969, I was 9 years old. I had been following the Apollo program since I was maybe 6, you know, and I begged my parents like crazy to get a telescope, you know. Every moment I could think of it, I was begging them for one, and they finally got me this one. This one right here is from Kmart. Okay, I don't know if you have Kmart over. You probably didn't have Kmart in the UK, but Kmart was a kind of a family discount department store. Okay, big ones, and they were everywhere. All right, and this telescope sold for $17.50 in 1970, and that was a bit of change for my parents. That was the most expensive gift I got for Christmas, and so I got my first views of the moon through this, and it helped to connect me in a way that sustained me for a long time. Okay, I didn't pick up astronomy in a serious way until about 1980. So from 10 years pass basically, but that was the you know, that was the seed that helped me get to where I am now. You know, and so, and when I look back on all the experiences, all the people, you know, all the beautiful things in the sky, you know, from things like the eclipses, total eclipses, to the impact, watching the impacts on Jupiter during the daytime from Mount Wilson to supernovas to, you know, all kinds of comets. It's beautiful, man. It is. It's beautiful, and to be out under this under the sky with people that understand astronomy to a degree, under the sky of like a Milky Way that is just so amazing. It's just to me, it's such a transformative experience, and I know that all of you and probably most of the people watching this show who have experienced that know what I'm talking about. I know that they've had a kind of a moment of enlightenment where they went through a stage of being very humbled, to thinking that they're so tiny and so insignificant, you know, to then realizing that what you can understand of the universe is really how vast your mind is. And so, you know, that exploration that astronomers do, whether it's visually or astrophotographically, you know, what's going on up here is really the important part, you know.
The reason I asked is because that is the same sort of thing that I started with at probably exactly the same time. And come on, confess. Did you look for the spacecraft going around the moon with it?
Yeah, I
Because
tried.
nobody told me I couldn't see it.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, great.
I mean, you didn't know,
No.
but,
We didn't know that then.
we didn't know that then. We were hoping that we could see the flag on the moon, but it was still amazing to see the craters and the mountain ranges and all of that.
Unfortunately, mine was probably not as good as that because it was a fixed eyepiece and it was push-pull.
Mine's push-pull.
Oh, I thought it got a focus on it.
No. There's no diagonal on this. This changes magnification by pulling it. Okay.
Right, yeah.
Focus is this.
No. Mine
So I'm cheating by having this luxury racket
luxury
focuser on it. Well, did yours have an optical finder on it? Let me ask you that.
No. Two pieces of plastic.
This just has a tube. Okay, just a tube. There's no optics in here. Okay, what have we got here?
In my hand
is
the mirror.
Yeah.
Of my first proper telescope.
Wow. That's a lot more aperture than I had, that's for sure.
The Charles Frank Saturn telescope.
Charles Frank?
Yeah.
Saturn
Scottish.
telescope.
Yeah, Scottish. On a terrible Altaz mount.
Mine too.
And with a 31 times eyepiece, absolutely tiny. Only a kid could use it.
Right.
And the eye relief was terrible.
Yes.
And like you said, alluded to earlier, money was a thing back then. I bought my own, and that cost me £4 for the telescope. I bought it off somebody at school.
I see.
And I pestered for an eyepiece. I upgraded to a 1/2-inch Ramsden eyepiece.
Wow.
That gave me 56 times.
Oh, yeah. Right.
But I saw a lot with that. That started me all those years ago.
Yes.
And I will put it back together for October in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
When I'll have had it 50 years.
Awesome.
I will put it back together. I said I was going to do it for 40 years, but it never got done. But it will get
You'll have to come back on the show when it's all assembled, okay?
Yeah.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. We want to thank everybody in the audience that's been watching. It's been a pleasure. The 18th Global Star Party will be Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central. I imagine that we'll see, certainly Gary Palmer will be there. All of you that were on the show, of course, are welcome to be there. And if you're watching the show and you would like to be on, then just contact me. I'll give you my email address here in the chat. It's s@explorescientific.com. I will also announce, and I've mentioned it before, but I'll announce again, that I think it's November 7th, we will have the Asian edition, the first one, the Asian edition of the Global Star Party, and that will be co-hosted with Christopher Go. So that'll be real exciting. But wherever you are in the world, whether you're doing, you want to talk about your astronomy experiences, show your images, show your gear, do solar work while the others are doing work at night, by all means, join us and share what you can with the whole world of amateur astronomers and other people that are not quite yet astronomers but are interested nevertheless, because it's a great adventure and it's something that never stops. So You guys have a great night, and thanks again. Thanks for hosting this, Gary. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for putting the events on, and thanks to the guests for coming on and the people watching. It's what makes it enjoyable.
Yeah, it was
Take
awesome.
care.
Yeah, take care.
Good night.
Good night.
Morning.
Right.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.